out there, and we do know that the leaders are obviously out in front, but Gertais is not too far behind. And then we have Tatsuripa, Stephen Mozingi and Jonas Bud are some way behind. So those are the folks that are making some of the progress. Gertais doing what he normally does, is doing some aggressive right running. He's not in the picture right now, but he's in the top 5 or 6 as we go at this stage. Nedbank runner out. That's Charles Souza with his blue number. The Nedbank Running Club has got a really powerful group, and one of them is Charles Souza, who's been punted as one of the minor contenders for the Nedbank team prize. Right now he's looking good, but they are now in and is looking really strong at the moment, moving up towards Kota Ridge, really.
Raga irili mizima semetaru pedi gomme shaza kena le monago o go tsoka kwa go la Zimbabwe ikaba ile gore o tla shuma ga botse ke putse kgolo e motho wa kana go iputsisha e fela sale le tjatsi le telele Charles Souza gomme re tla bona ona ikaba ile gore ba batla morago gona le khapana kwa morago ba sa etla ba isa ba lebelelane ikaba ile gore ba tla shuma ga botse ke putse kgolo.
So that in fact is the race leader, Charles Souza. It's not. He's just chasing up towards the lead, and Souza, he was one of the guys that was in the lead early on. That's Engels there with the yellow compression socks, and a lot of chopping and changing happening. Guys are putting in some surges at this stage, but so Charles Souza of Nedbank goes past Engels. We're now crossing over the highway, going up towards some really big hills that go through Kota Ridge to get to Drummond.
Charles Souza wat baie sterk spot soos Ian Laxton gesê het, dat Stephen Muzingi
per kilometre at the moment, and that sort of speed is quite. Charles Souza, of the Nedbank Running Club section, most notable under Dlamini, Tolo joined this course, but your thoughts? You're focusing on trying to get to the finish line from as well the Port. So not only South Africa, but Africa is heading to athletes.
Sy was natuurlik tweede
last Gulliver twin can help you keep in 2000 a lot quicker.
Kanti siyayazi ke insizwa laphana eke yagijima kakhulu yawina ikhombisa shaya up record apho yashaya I down record set off kodwa ke sithela sikhuluma naye kulenzo kwathi hayi this time uzigijimela nje ugijimela u9 hours akajahe kuwina kodwa nje this time uzogijima nomngane wakhe eninso serasha laphana ke siyabona ke insizwa elide yawo laphana ngempela ke uGilbert Mthandiro ongena walapha ke waseZimbabwe uyena olidown njengamanje kanti uyena ohleli lapha phambili egroupini le elandela uCharles laphana asazi ngaphezulu zikaloba siyabona ngaphela ukuthi igroup ke seyiyasondela laphana sokukhombisa wona phela ukuthi kade kusile labantu baseKwaZulu-Natal angazi ke liyazizwe noma seyiqala ukushaya uvalo noma bayibona igroup ilande iza la eduze ngoba siyabona ukuthi seyiqala ukuthi nayo ibheke emva iye kube yisanike lesikhathi esiningi ukuthi umuntu uma seqala uba nankinga simbone ebheke emva ukuthi hayi ukuthi useqala uba nenkinga.
Well, it looks like a lead has changed slightly. Charles Souza, who was out in front, is no longer out in front. Just trying to get identification on the lead runner in the early stages. Now a 40-odd gone by in 2014 Comrades Marathon. Just a reminder as well, if you'd like to get interactive with us on Twitter or Instagram as well, certainly loads of runners posting pictures of themselves ahead of the start of this race. A couple out on the route. Hashtag Comrades 2014 is the handle which you can use. Hashtag Comrades 2014. Twitter as well if you'd like to get interactive and join in on the social media platforms for this 89th running of the Comrades Marathon. The lead runner here just trying to get an identification on the lead runner, and it might very well be Sibanda. It certainly looked a little like Elmo Sibanda. He was certainly among the leading group of runners, the Zimbabwe runner. Is that Elmo Sibanda? I think that might very well be Elmo Sibanda of the Maxed Elite International contingent, tackling this 89.28 kilometer race. Indeed it is Elmo Sibanda who's making his way down the road. It's tough to lead from this early position, Willie, and go on to claim victory, but certainly aggressive starts are not necessarily always frowned upon, but it's difficult. I mean, is it something that you realistically look to do in a marathon or an ultra marathon the length of Comrades?
Yes. At this stage, we're seeing Elmo Sibanda is leading the race, and there's still a long way to go. And siyabona ngempela ukuthi ke kukhona insizwa elidayo lapha njengoba ngasho ukuthi njengamanje sale kuzalobe kukhona ushintsho oluningi nje olukhona qhamuke insizwa iphume siyakhumbula ukuthi ke Pietermaritzburg lokhu bashintshana ngokulida kodwa le group masilibuka lapha eliza ngemuva siyabona liyeza liza kahle ngepace ngempela ngoba sizibona nendoda lapha umzingi owayiwina i-up run ne-down run ukhona lapha kule bunch notesi ke esimazi kodwa namhlanje na ithe ngoba silapha esicama ukuthi ke njengoba uzokwenza kahle kakhulu ngoba sibona ukuthoshini ukuthi ke uwagijima phambili kodwa this time uthe no ngeke ngizibambe ngihlale ebhantshini ngoba akhona laphana ke kuse early abakafiki ngisho half munye kanti zatsizwe zimbili laphana zaseZimbabwe izona ngempela ezilehle lapha phambili zilida laphana asazi ke noma ziyokwazi ukufika lapha ko Hillycrest ziphumele ko Drummond zisalida kanjena laphana njengoba zihleli laphana ke uCharles kanye noElmond ibona abahleli phambili laphana izaseZimbabwe engicamthi ke asazi ngempela uzokwenzekani ke kodwa ke sizonazisa lapha emakhaya ngempela ukuthi kwenzekani kodwa siyabona izinto hayi kubi ngempela liyatsizwa eNetbank kanye neMax Africa asazi ngempela zezikani ngempela ke sizozwa khona manje ukuthi ngoba siyabona ngathi ke nabo sebeqala bavela lama gap lapha ngoba siyabona izwe lapha uCharles Soza uyena ovuzama uvule igap manje asazi ngoba siyabona ukuthi ke indawo ziyehlela uyabona nama strikes agijima ngayo lapha ukuthi usethanda ukwehlela manje akasagijima indawo ekhuphukayo.
So at the moment, currently leading out in front, Charles Soza, Elmo Sibanda having dropped off the pace just slightly. But back in the third group now, about 3 minutes, about 3 kilometers behind. It looks like Jonas Bud is slowly running his own race. He's not having any terms dictated to him. I can tell you out in the women's race, though, already extending their lead to nearly 2.5 minutes, the Nurgalieva twins over Camille Heron. Of the United States, Ellie Greenwood of Great Britain, another part of the Nedbank international contingent of runners, are following up in third and fourth place respectively in the women's race. Tabitha Tsatsa, the former Two Oceans champion, the Zimbabwean athlete as well, still in contention in the women's race. We'll bring you updates as the match progresses, or as this race progresses. This is the live visuals of the leading women coming through Camperdown now. Arnu, the Nurgalieva twins, well out in front. And of course, not unfamiliar sights to see loads of men in and around the leading ladies.
Nog steeds reg langs mekaar die Nurgalieva tweeling en natuurlik die mans wat saam met hardloop weet wat 'n tipe pas hulle gaan hardloop. So manne wat hulle eie wedlope hier naby 6 ure wil hardloop weet as hulle by die Nurgalievas kan bly kan hulle daardie tipe tyd hardloop. En ek dink dit help nogal baie vir die twee susters om saam op die pad te wees. Ek wonder net of haar spanopdrag gaan wees soos in die Formule 1 wedlope wat las aan die einde nog by mekaar is. Gaan hulle vir Helena haar 9de Comrades wen gee of is dit Olisia se kans hierdie keer?
So I wonder if the Nurgalieva twins sometimes say, who's feeling stronger, you go ahead and go on for it in the last few kilometers. But certainly we've seen that sort of camaraderie between the two athletes, and ultimately sums up why this race was created in the first place, celebrating the camaraderie of men and women the world over is the Comrades Marathon. Well, Willie, it looked like so Gertys for a moment.
Yeah, I think Gertys is running a clever race today because we know Gertys that he doesn't wait for anybody, but this time he's just running with a group, and I think that will help him because we know that Gertys is the fastest man in the field there. He got a very fast time for the marathon, but I think the way he's running very clever. Siyabuka ngempela ukuthi ke njengamanje insizwa zibambele laphana asazi ke ukuthi kuzokwenzekani. Siyabona ukuthi hayi akekho ngempela ozimisela ukuthi avela aphume nje ahlabe ngespeed. Sizokhumbula ke ukuthi ke enye insizwa laphana esiyazi yakatesi laphana iyona ke siyazi ukuthi ayinaso isikhathi sokuthi ke iyona iligijima nesizwa ifuna isigijimeli esiyayo igijima yodwa. Kodwa namhlanje na uchele hayi azibambe nje ngempela asazi ngempela uzenzekani ke zizolezi tshintsha izo njengoba sengasho ukuthi ziyangena ziyaphuma ezinye ziyalida zibe hlehlele emuva ezinye zigcine zidrop nomphelo ngempela abanye ke basuke begijima nje begijima ukuthi hayi mina ngifuna ukuvela ku TV anginandaba nokuwina ngoba vele ngiyazi ngeke ngiwine laba ke abawina isikhathi esiningi abavamisile ukuthi ke bavele bahlala lapha phambili kodwa ke uyothi kufika halfway kuyobe sokucaca ngempela ukuthi kuzokwenzekani. Siyabona izizwe ezimbili laphana uJohannes Boot ngempela ukhona uJohan Boost laphana ukhona laphana asazi ngempela ke ukuthi uzenzekani ngoba siyabona ukuthi hayi uhleli kahle ebhantshini. Siyayibona enye insizwa lapha amzingi umzingi laphana naye uhleli lapha ebhantshini asazi ngempela ukuthi uzenzekani ngoba kuse kodwa ke indlela abagijima ngayo ngiyabona insizwa uyabona nokuthi insizwa ziserious ngempela zithi nami ngiyayifuna namhlanje le race ukuthi ngiwine.
Charles Souza nog steeds voor, maar dat kyk daar aan die regterkant van die beeld na Jonas Boot. Boot die beste marathontyd van hier 2 ure 22 minute. So hy's aansienlik stadiger oor die marathon soos 'n man soos Gert Thuys. Baie verskillende taktieke ook Gert Thuys wat vinnig begin, maar Boot wat sterk gaan eindig. Ons moet kyk hoe die atlete deur die wedloop vorder.
Well, Jonas Boot, the tall athlete in the green colours of Nedbank, running along quite strongly. He's got Ludwig Mamabola alongside him. Charles, Claude Mouchiot, rather, the defending champion, is around 600 metres further back. But you can expect him to be among the favourites when they head towards the finishing stretch. But earlier this week, Ian Laxton headed out and caught up with the tall Swede, Jonas Boot.
Jonas, last year you had the most fantastic run, coming second. Just tell us a little bit about last year. How was it?
It was a great race. I think it was one of my best race ever. I started a little bit slow and then I increased the speed during the end, and I think it was one of my best races ever.
Do you think, looking back, you might have won the race if you'd gone a bit earlier?
No, it was 9 minutes. It's too much. I think it's not possible.
Now, looking at this year, now you're more experienced, you've done a couple of Comrades. How do you feel about this year's race?
I think I'm very good prepared for this year. So I've been practicing a lot of down run during the winter and the spring in Sweden. So I think I'm in good shape for this down run.
The down run, it's actually a much faster race, especially at the end. The guys are running really quickly. Do you have that sort of speed?
Yes, I hope so. I've been training a little bit more speed this winter also. So I think I will be in good speed during them.
Coming to South Africa to the Comrades, you've run all over the world. What's this race like compared with other races?
This is the biggest. This is the race that you want to win. It's the best starting field and it's the biggest prize money. So this is the race.
Let's look at your plan for the race. Do you tend to run according to a time schedule, or do you watch the other guys, or what do you do?
No, I've been running by myself. I don't look at the watch so much in the beginning. I just feel my body and run as it feels, and try to increase the speed during the end, as always.
So the thoughts, opinions and insights, of course, of Jonas Boot, second in Comrades 2013, looking to go one better in this year's race. Now, just tucked in behind Jonas Boot, you can see the runner Vasily Larkin. This man, Arnaud, of course, the second fastest 100 kilometers ever, 6:18. So a remarkable running pedigree in his own right. Part of the Maxed Elite International team, Vasily Larkin. And he is a particularly strong runner, looking as well to claim Comrades glory.
6:18 oor 100 km. Beteken hy kan nie by 5:30 hardloop vir 'n Comrades Marathon. Moet natuurlik vergelyk met Jonas Boot, daai Swiss Alpine wat ons oor gepraat het. Jonas Boot se wentyd verlede jaar daar was 6 ure 13 minute en dit was slegs 78 km. So Vasily Larkin definitief 'n gevaarman wat dan net uit beeldheid gehardloop het voor die baie lang figuur daar van Jonas Boot.
And he would know just how to pace himself. But another familiar face, Victor Ngwelanga, is running in amongst the crowd with Larkin and Jonas Boot, Willie.
ya siyabona ngempela ukuthi insizwa laphana ke sibonile insizwa laphana Victor Ngubelanga somkhumbula ke uNgubelanga ukuthi ke umunye umuntu wama-favorite phana esilindele ukuthi enze kahle namhlanje ngoba phela simbonile lapha kwaNongoma egijima ewine imoto ngicamthi ke usene spirit ngempela ngoba naye siyambona hayi uhleli lapha phambili siyabona nensizwa laphana ke into uYohannes Bhuti uhleli ngempela lapha phambili naye uthi hayi nami namhlanje na ilanga lami ke asazi ngempela ukuthi kuzokwenzekani ke sizwile ukuthi nensizwa umzingi bakhona laphana kanye naye defending champ ayisele kakhulu laphana ikhona nje lapha eduze asazi ngempela kuzokwenzekani ngoba luselude ukhalo siyayibona ke insizwa kaTesi laphana ke nando ke seyiqale ivela njengamanje ke le egqoke u40 years asazi ke ngempela kuzokwenzeka noma namhlanje na isukela irecord noma uthi hayi namhlanje na no ngifuna nje ukuthi ngigijime kahle ngiwine le race kade ezama ukuthi le race ezama abe nenkinga asazi ke namhlanje ukuthi ke uzoba nayo kodwa ke siyabona ngendlela agijima ngayo manje urelaxile ngempela asazi kwenzekani ke uyibambe ngempela ke nje ke siyambona uyaconcentrate siyazi ukuthi ayithanda ukugijima nabantu ithanda izigijimela yedwa nje uyibona seyiqala zemva iyabheka ukuthi ubani oyilandelayo ngoba phela iyayithanda i-challenge yansizwa isithanda ukuthi igijime nabantu ngempela ezakwazi ukugijimela isikhathi esihle akazwani ukuthi agijimela isikhathi esislow. Tace, I think he's starting to do his own thing now because we can see him that he is just starting to pick up the pace.
He certainly is. He looks to be a lot stronger. Tace, the South African marathon record holder on the left of your screen. He's a very strong runner in his own right, and he's always said it's mathematically possible to actually run a 5-hour Comrades Marathon. In practice, though, it's a lot more difficult, and you need to take in a great deal number more factors, including, of course, the weather conditions today, expecting to be quite warm, and certainly a very warm start. No real runners out with gloves, no real jackets that we are familiar to seeing in the start of this magnificent race. But certainly, Tace is running his own pace now, and ultimately that's what it's about. It's about running your own race and putting out all the other factors. But it looks like, I think he's moved up into second position.
Ja, ek dink Tace wat nou begin leer hoe die wedloop werk. Soos hy gesê het, Dwayne, in teorie het hy gesê jy kan naby in 5 ure kom, maar in die praktyk is dit nie altyd so maklik nie. En hy begin nou vind wat sy pas is. Aan die regterkant van die beeld het ons ook gesien daar was die Larkin en Jonas Boot wat nog steeds saam hardloop. En dis nie ongewoon nie, want Larkin en Boot sal mekaar ken van die wêreld 100 meter kampioenskappe. Hulle het al 'n paar van daardie saam gehardloop. Jonas Boot was natuurlik tweede op daardie kampioenskappe. En soos ons gesê het, was Silly Larkin 6 ure 18 minute, die tweede vinnigste tyd ooit oor 100 km. En hy is slegs 23 jaar oud. Baie mense sal sê op 23 jaar moet jy nie eintlik hierdie lang afstande hardloop nie. Maar Lindsay Wade in 2060 gesê, as jy 'n ultra-atleet is, jy 'n ultra-atleet. Jou ouderdom maak nie regtig saak nie.
Do you have a view in terms of age, Willie? Certainly some people suggest that while you've got the energy, while you've got the vitality, you should be hitting the distances hard. Others are saying when you run at this sort of level, this sort of distance from an early age, it takes a lot out of you as the older you get.
Yeah, definitely. No, Comrades is not an easy race. It's not a race for the youngsters. I think when you're getting older, you're getting slow on the marathons. That's when you can start to run a Comrades Marathon. Siyabona ngempela ukuthi ke iComrades akusiyona irace ukuthi igijime abantu abasebancane njengoba ngashene. Uma ngabe sowubona hayi so uthanda uba mdala iComrades ilapho songaqala ukuthi igijime khona ngoba phela iComrades akuyona yengane ngempela. Izingane ziyavela kodwa uhamba kwesikhathi ngempela sitholda hayi azisabonakali ngokuthi le race ngempela ifuna insizwa ngempela esizemkantshubovu eziqinile. Uma usenamncane ke wena ke asikukhuthaza ukuthi ungahamba ugijima irace njengeComrades. Siningi isikhathi seComrades ungabuyela kusona mase sowuthe ukukhula. Siyabona ke insizwa ukuthi ke cha ikhona insizwa ngempela esahleli lapha phambili evule igap asazi ke leya gap ukuthi ke iyovaleka nini. Siyabona ngempela ukuthi ke abasekude kona ukuthi bafika halfway ngoba manje na bayohlanganisa wona u2 hours besuke ku start kodwa kuse early ngempela ngoba abakafiki ngisho ku halfway asazi ngempela uzenzekani ke kodwa izinto ziyashintsha ngempela bangeke ngasho ukuthi abantu abalidala phana kuyashintsha kube qhamuka omunye kuphuma omunye ngene omunye kuphuma omunye ngene omunye kodwa ke so sifika lapha ku halfway sibe sazi ngempela kwenzekani. Siyayibona ke insizwa lapha ku Charles Souza esike sambona elida naye lapha ehleli lapha phambili asazi ngempela ukuthi ke uzolida isikhathi singakanani naye ehleli lapha ngoba siyabona ukuthi ngendlela asegijima ngayo manje uyabona ukuthi no imlenze siyasho phela ukuthi ke kade ngigijima sokunesikashane ngigijima asazi ke nokuthi ke yena ufuna uzigijimela nje ukuthi afike halfway bese ejoka yini aze ayoqeda irace.
So 2 hours has just ticked on by in the 2014 Comrades Marathon. You can get interactive with us. Hashtag Comrades 2014 on Twitter, Instagram as well. A couple of runners are tweeting out on the route already. Karine Duplessis, very familiar reporter, a reporter for the City Press. She enjoys tweeting from the road, Arnu, so she's been giving updates of what's been happening out on the road, and you can continue to do that as well if you are watching, wherever you might be watching. You've got family members or friends, messages you want to get out, and certainly any message of encouragement and support as well, of course, of all these who are tackling this grueling challenge of just under 90 kilometres. Well, that is Vasily Larkin on the right of your screen, and a little earlier this week in the build-up to this magnificent race, we caught up with Vasily Larkin.
What have you heard about the Comrades Marathon? Do you know the course? What do you think about the whole race?
I know what Comrades strongest marathon in world, what most strongest runners run here and course very hilly, and I have special mountain training especially for Comrades.
What is your race plan? You don't know the course, you lots of experienced runners around you. How are you going to run the race?
I have plan, look nobody, only run on time. I planning 5:25, 5:30 and run especially in time.
Okay, welcome guys. William Tolo and Arnold, I'm with you here. We're watching now Vasily Larkin. We are on they've gone 2 hours now. They're running. And then we're watching Gartes as well. He's also in the mix. And Arnold?
Well, the athlete's just going there through Harrison Flats, about 36 kilometers into the race now, and in a normal marathon, this is where your legs really start to hurt. And these athletes still with about 52 kilometers to go in this race. Jonas Boot, Vasily Larkin still there, and they're in the chasing pack, chasing those leaders of Charles Souza, Anele Dlamini and Gartes.
During the late 50s and 60s in the Comrades Marathon, Jackie Meckler was one of the most feared names. The 1963 record setter was Comrades champion for 5 years between 1958 and 1968. The extraordinary Jackie Meckler.
Introducing Sew and Stitch. With each issue, learn to create beautiful things with fabric for you and your home, and make this lovely seaside-themed quilt. Each magazine includes step-by-step instructions with inspirational ideas and projects. Sew and Stitch, Part 1 with Seaside Quilt Starter Kits, only $14.90.
When finished becomes finish, and could do becomes just did. This is the moment. It's why you run.
Okay, there they are. Now we're watching the bike there. And I'm with now Bruce and Helian. As you're watching them as they go there. Okay, Bruce, the leader, what do you think of him?
Well, he's looking very good at this stage, but to me the pace looks too fast. Certainly those leaders to me seem to be going far too quickly at this stage.
Yeah, you always get a few guys who are going to take out the race and sort of try and stamp the authority on it. But I've also was chatting to some of the teams, and they did have some rabbits, which is somebody who's deliberately sent out to run quickly and to try and bake up the field. But here we see quite a strong bunch of athletes in a chasing field, and there's sure to be some gold medalists in that lot.
jaaka re ba lebeletse jalo ke setlhopha se leng gore se setse se le kwa godimo se batlang go ka iponela jalo phenyo jaaka re lebeletse bontsi ba tsone ke ditlhopha di le pedi tse di borogiwang jalo ke setlamo sa dijanaga ga mmogo le batabogi ba ba borogiwang jalo ke nngwe ya dibanka tse di itsegeng mme re lebeletse jalo gore ke bo mama ba leng teng re boletse jalo batabogi ba ba leng teng re lebelela jalo bo Steven Muzingi ba teng for bo Anele Tamini bo Elmo Sebanda ga mmogo le mosimane wa Charles Sousa ke bone ba ba lebeletseng jalo gore go tswa mo go sone setlhopha se they're going to break away from this now from the group.
That's good to see Ludwig there. He's looking fairly relaxed. Bungmusa Mtembu's there as well. And this is definitely a group containing people who could end up in the gold medals.
And Joseph Maputi there from the Toyota Club. They've got quite a strong group, and a lot of them running there with the federated or the Bluff meets. So and Nedbank. So it's quite a mix-up there of the different clubs. But Bruce, what do you think? Much teamwork going on?
I think no, rather just keying off each other, trying to stay relaxed, occasionally making the odd joke, and just trying to stay as relaxed as possible and to conserve as much energy as possible, because shortly they'll be going up the back of a major hill called Inchanga, which is about a 3 to 4 kilometer long climb. First of all, they're going to pass the very famous Ntembeni School for the Disabled, which will be very motivating for them. And then they've got a major climb before dropping down into Drummond at halfway.
Well, at the back of this bunch, we can see Stephen Masingi, and he certainly knows what to do in this race. He's been in this position quite a few times. He's won it on 3 occasions. He's got wearing the yellow number here in the middle of the sort of towards the top right-hand screen. Just sitting in the back of this bunch, keeping himself out of trouble and looking quite comfortable.
Yeah, and Stephen, of course, the second fastest ever down time with a 5:23, so he's been there.
And on the right-hand side, Wolfers Putter, also a gold medalist from last year. So in this bunch, we've got some very, very talented runners. They know what it's about. We've got winners, we've got gold medals. So if you it's a good bunch to stay with.
Ebile gape rena le Ludwig Mamabolo yo eleng eno yo fentseng lebelo le mo 2012 mme re tla bona gore o tla tsamaya ka mokgontsheng jang Ludwig mo go lone lebelo le mo letsatsing la gompieno mme ga kologela gore jaanong isimolla go nna setlhopha sa banna ba re tla solofelang kgaisano e gagametseng go tswa mo go bone re boleletse jalo Steven Muzingi le ene e ntse le mongwe wa bone fela Ludwig Mamabolo ya go nna mongwe wa ba re tla ba lebella me pantse ba tabaga jalo ka tselentseng jalo e tla re fa re ya kwa puisano kgotsa interview le Ludwig Mamabolo e tla re bone gore Ludwig ene maikutlo a go ke eng malebana le lebelo le fa moraga gore a boele mo go lone.
Petrus Sosibo, he's in the front here wearing a yellow number. He's got 2 gold medals also. That would indicate that he's running his 10th run, so he knows also just exactly what to do.
On the down run, one of the key things is for the leading runners to try and stay within range of each other. On the up run, you can open up some big gaps and you can close them. But the down run, because of the leg muscle damage, people try to stay as close to each other as they can so that you don't give somebody too much of a lead because it becomes a real battle in the second half of the race to try and close that gap.
Okay, now what we're going to do now, we're going to go to the interview which was held earlier this week with Ludwig Mamabolo. Me fitela mo sebakeng seno e tla re fa pele re tla le fa yone re tlhalosetse ka setlhopha se se kwa pele se sentseng se etelela kwa pele jalo se se akaretsang jalo bo Steven Muzingi yo tlile fenya lefelo le makgetlo le mararo ka go latelana fela re tla utlwa gore Ludwig ene o ne ipakanyetsa lebelo le ka mokgontse jang fa ra go buisana le ene mo nakong e sa fediseng pelo fela re ntse re lebile ba bantseng ba tla kwa pele ke bona jalo Butiki Junkie ke mongwe wa ba bantseng ba le kwa pele ke mo Africa Borwa yo le ene a solofetseng gore ka gongwe a ka iponela jalo maemo a bolesome mo tsamayong ya lone lebelo le jaaka ke go boleletse bangwe ba ba tlileng ba boa eteletse pele Peter Nzeripa go tswa ko Zimbabwe ga sa tlhola le teng mo stopeng sa ba kwa pele bo Charles Sousa me jano re ka ipakanyetsa jalo Ludwig Mamabolo interview with Ludwig Mamabolo which was conducted earlier this week.
You're the defending down run champion. How's your shape compared with 2 years ago?
According to my training, Lexton, for now, I can say I have improved a lot and I'm very happy with what I've achieved on my training. I'm just happy to be here and waiting for the 1st of June. I get information around the books, and I watch races, and I never had coach, and I don't believe in coach because I know my abilities, and there's a lot of guys that have been training this year. What I can presently proudly say that they see the new face in Comrade this year, and I'm very confident with the guys because they've been doing very well, and I hope we will get the best of each and every one of us on Sunday. The first 10Ks I will see what is happening around me, and then I will decide there. But I'm very confident that I will be victorious on the 1st of June. That's why I'm here for.
Ludwig, the last 10 kilometers of the down run is sometimes very, lots of guys together running very fast. Is it hard, the last 10?
Last 10 is very, very difficult. I've never felt any pain in the last 10 Ks, but all 79 kilometers, it's easy for me, but the last 10 Ks is very, very difficult, especially when you are running alone up front there.
Well, we've got probably the runners with the main contenders in this bunch. They're still running down Harrison Flats, which has allowed them to set into quite a nice stable pace, have a good look at around at the other guys' form, because compared to what they're coming up to, this is quite flat, this part of the route, Bruce, and it's a good opportunity to suss out your competition and how they're looking.
It is, Helen, and they're all there. If I can go through some of the names: Ludwig Mamabola, Joseph Mputi, Petros Sasibo, Stephen Muzingi, 3-time winner, Rufus Porto, Bongomisa Mtembu, and Glamini. They're all there, and behind them, we understand, about a minute to 2 minutes behind is the other group of contenders containing Jonas Bood and some of the other runners there who have a chance. In front of these runners are the runners who went for the hotspot, and so they've fragmented into a couple of small groups, but I would say you're looking at this big group and the group behind as being the main contenders.
So Joseph Mputi, another one of the athletes that we caught up with earlier this week. We'll hear from him shortly. Ludwig Mamavolo, who we heard from a moment ago as well, tucked in behind, is one of the Nedbank athletes, and certainly among the very strong contingents. But now, Bruce was going through the merits of runner Joseph Mputi. Ian Laxton caught up with him earlier this week.
What is your plan for the race for this year? What do you hope to achieve?
If I can go to maybe to top 5 is my dream, and even have my dreams to win the Comrades, So I've trained very hard because yes, I used to run it down because I'm having it down. So I think I'll run good this year.
Joseph, where do you train? Do you train on your own? Who's your coach? Tell me about your training.
No, I'm not having a coach. I'm training myself at my place at Free State, Frankfurt. Yeah, I'm training there. I'm a full-time athlete. I'm fashion design again. So my training comes very well.
Joseph, your race plan for the day, do you like to go in the front, or do you sit back, or do you just look at your watch?
No, I'm going to look at it for my watch, and I'm going to run my own race. I'm not going to target anyone, so I'm going to target the time.
There's Jonas Mputi, the views of the top athletes. Again, he'll be looking for a little something in terms of success from the 2014 Comrades Marathon. The 89th running, big year number 90 coming up as well. Out in terms of the ladies, however, just to give you an update, of course, Camille Heron and Ellie Greenwood tucked in third and fourth behind the Nurgalievas. This is them now, Helen, the Nurgalieva twins running side by side, again surrounded by a host of men, just getting a little crowded, but they are setting a rather aggressive pace. They're leading now by nearly 4 minutes over Camille Heron. It's going to be tough to make up over the second half of the course.
Yeah, we noticed that at the beginning when they were sort of approaching the top of Polly Shorts, that they were really going to stamp their authority on this race very early on and sort of put it out to the other girls. Interesting tactic, because in the previous down run we had Ellie Greenwood closing up very, very quickly. So one wonders what is actually going through Eleanor's head to have pushed out so quickly. But we all know they're very capable of running this pace.
They certainly are. Elena and Olesia Nurgalieva, the twins running alongside one another, clearly marked. Their first names emblazoned across the green pins on their vests, both running in the colours of Toyota. Well, we managed to catch up with the shorter of the two, Elena Nurgalieva, earlier this week as well.
How has your training been this year compared with the previous years? Is it the same? Is it better?
I think is it same, our training, but if compare with 12, this time we training without our nephew because he little bit disturb us because he is too much small to eat only, and for runners, for athletes, very important regime, schedule. So we keep schedule, sleeping, eating on time, in time, and so I think maybe it is good for athletes.
You've won 8 times now in the Comrades Marathon. Bruce Fordyce has won 9 times. For you, is it important to get number 9 or maybe number 10?
Also not important. I am not count my winners. It's just number for me. So doesn't matter.
You are a legend, which means you're one of the most famous runners in the whole race. Is that for you nice? Is it important?
Only this year I understand what it means legend. Before I not understanding what is it, and I think it is very respectful for me, and I thank to Comrades Association for invitation, and me and my sister.
What is your plan for the race?
We know thinking about plan. It's like exprompt. Do you know exprompt? It's depend how run another athletes, how feeling today me and my sister. So it's ever exprompt. It's I see for situation around me and my sister.
But the experience you have now, you've run 11 times, this is number 12. You must know exactly what's happening. You've got lots of experience.
It is ever like first time. It's ever I'm nervous, I'm exciting, I'm trouble. So it's and I little bit afraid because the road very very long. So I don't know my body for 100%. So it's ever trouble.
So that's the views of Helena Nurgalieva, certainly talking about being adaptable and how they feel on the day. The two Nurgalieva twins, Helena and Alessia, both out in front currently, about 4 minutes in front of Camille Herron of the United States. Ellie Greenwood of Great Britain up in 4th position. The leading South African lady is currently Shane Bosman. She was 5th last year. She's currently in 6th position, nearly 10 minutes back, however. And certainly when you look at the South African athletes, Jane Woodall, the only other South African in amongst the top 10 currently, but we're hearing that Zola Budd is down in 11th position, Bruce.
Yes, we've heard from Ray de Vries, who's the manager of Zola Budd's running team, the Hooters running team, that Zola is lying in 11th position. She is apparently about 6 or 7 minutes inside silver medal pace, which is fantastic. Last year she ran 8 hours, and she's wearing a yellow ribbon for Pia Korki, who is still a prisoner in Yemen, who was her coach for, I think, back in 1988, 89, that time. So she's got a sense of purpose, and she's running really well at this stage.
Certainly is. She missed out the silver medal last year by some 35 minutes. But the two leading ladies from the Toyota team, and of course your opportunity to win as well. You can enter the Toyota Amabidi winner car competition by SMSing the word Toyota to 34068. SMS is costing R1.50. You're live on SABC2 coverage of the 2014 Comrades Marathon. You can get interactive as well. Twitter and Instagram, hashtag Comrades 2014. Dwayne DeLocke, Bruce Fordyce, Helen Luker, watching the leading ladies. And Helen, it is going to be a monstrous task for any ladies in this field to overcome the Nurgalieva twins. Surely you talk about the strong finishing ability of Ellie Greenwood. Greenwood, undoubtedly a top-class athlete. Camille Heron hanging in for the time being. But if you look at the Southern African contingent, you look at Tabitha Tsatsa, the Zimbabwean athlete as well, a former Two Oceans winner. Is she realistically going to be competitive or be able to compete with the Galeva twins on the day ahead?
Well, I think the challenge for her is she's never run the distance before. She's never competed. She's entered a couple of times and either not made it to the start line or definitely not to the finish. So it's a whole new game for an athlete like that. And I think what a lot of the other athletes don't have is that advantage of just running shoulder to shoulder next to someone who's consistently running. And we can see in this bunch we've got the Ngalieva sisters looking very comfortable, as always surrounded by quite a large group of guys. We know there's a lot of people in front of them. These two girls will come in about the top 50, Bruce. So there's a lot of people in this bunch who are not going to be running with them at the end.
Yes, I mean the pace they set is consistent. It's strong all the way, and that's why some of these men key off them. But of course, there's also the element. I know this sounds odd, but of wanting to be on television. You can appear on television if you hang around the two leading ladies, and of course you don't have to do too much thinking. If you're hoping for a solid, really good silver medal, they can do the thinking for you.
Well, you need to go all the way back to 2005, the last time either Elena or Alessia was beaten in this race, and it was another Russian, Tatiana Zhirkova, who ended up winning. Reminder, hashtag Comrades 2014. You can tweet us, Robin Klaassen among those, wishing all the amazing athletes doing Comrades 2014 today an enjoyable and injury-free race. You guys are phenomenal. Some tweets from out on the race as well. I've got to say, Karine Duplessis, the journalist, continues to tweet. Smelly part of the race, she says. Chicken farms, I'm going vegan for sure. Behind me is a bus chanting easy, easy up the hill. Sibonga Kolo says, in bed, glued on my television, the biggest ultramarathon in the world. The Bongani Mahlangu run and stake part of this race, truly something special. The ultimate human race, and it really is the ultimate human race. Mr. Fox. Hello, Oscar, Mr. Fox. So good luck to everyone taking part. Comrades 2014, it takes great courage indeed to do this. Just want to wish my buddy the best of luck in the race. With you in spirit, Comrades 2014, says Ntabi Matabuche. Gertes, I can tell you, is moving in on Charles Souza at this top of the race, but we're getting social as well as we look back at the Katsita spot. And Zwandi Limbeje, a marathon of 89 kilometers, starts with a kilometer. Oh, there's an interesting way of approaching it. Take it step by step. Tulu Mukhakhabe says, best of luck to all those insane people running away incessantly for 90 kilometers without being chased by anybody or anything. That's something. What motivates a runner to run 90 k's without being chased by anyone or anything? We'll get some more views from Helen Luca and Bruce Fordyce as coverage of the 2014 Comrades Marathon continues in just a moment.
Leonard Shvetsov has won the Comrades twice, and both in record time. His 2008 up-run mark is yet to be beaten, as is his mark of 5 hours, 20 minutes and 41 seconds achieved in the 2007 down run.
As we raise the skills of South Africans, we move to a more prosperous tomorrow. For over 12 years, KwaZulu-Natal has contributed to raising skills in the tourism and travel, hospitality, conservation, sports, recreation and fitness, arts and culture and heritage, and gaming lotteries sector through the partnership with business, communities and government. KwaZulu-Natal, sustainable people development for prosperity. KwaZulu-Natal, sustainable people development for prosperity through partnerships with business, communities and government.
Get the new Corolla Quest 1.6 from only $174,900.
Coverage of the Comrades Marathon 2014. You're live on SABC2, and this is an aerial view from the helicopter of the race leaders. Now, I can tell you that Gertes is closing on Charles Souza at the top of the leaderboard. And Gertes is looking good. Now, apparently, according to some of our men out on the road, some of our spotters out on the road as well, Gertes has changed his shoes, and he seems to be now closing the gap a little more confidently than previously. A change of equipment and suddenly a change of fortunes, Bruce.
And a change of terrain as well. I can tell you that he is going up the back of Inchanga Hill, which is about a 3.5 kilometer long climb all the way to the top. Very difficult, tricky climb, and it's one of the hills in the race that all the novices say, I thought I was doing the down run. What am I doing running uphill for 20 minutes or so? But at the top of this hill, he'll get a view down into the valley below of Drummond at halfway.
Now, at 2:25, I can tell you that Gertes has closed the gap on the leader, Charles Souza. He is currently in second position. He's only around 35 seconds behind the race leader. Now, Helen, you and I watched with great interest 2012, all the talk, all the hype, all the build-up of the possibility of running a 5-hour Comrades Marathon. Gertes says it's mathematically possible, but he went out, he spoke big, and all of a sudden, he just stopped. Was it Hillcrest, I think? He just completely stopped.
Just after Hillcrest, he just stopped. But, I mean, I enjoy having Gertes in the race. He's got fantastic history. He's the fastest runner. He's got that ability. And he's not afraid to actually stand there and say, I'm going to go on. I'm going to take this race on. I'm going to fly. We all sit there and we kind of crit him because we know that it's never been done before. But some of us kind of are hoping that he will be able to hang on there and come through nicely.
Well, leaderboard currently, Sousa leads out in front from Tace, who is closing the gap. Parura, Mabane and Fokoroni are among those as well in the chasing bunch. They'll be looking to put a little pressure on the leading runners as we head towards the second half of this 2014 Comrades Marathon. Tough part of the route, but certainly is the second half. The change in elevation, the real drop in elevation is the difficult part. And Bruce, when you talk about the changes in elevation, there is some change in elevation at the start coming from Pietermaritzburg, but ultimately it's only after halfway that the down run really starts, doesn't it?
Yes, once they've dropped down now into Drummond, they've got to work their way out of the sort of the bowl that Drummond sits in, and they've got to work their way up about a 6 or 7 kilometre long climb up into Bothers Hill Village. And then right opposite Kearsney College, the down run begins, with your legs that are nicely tenderized and tired and sore, and you've got to start plummeting down. But at the moment, as we can see from the chart, he's busy working his way up the back of Inchanga, and as I said, it's a long and tricky and tiring climb. At the top, he'll get a beautiful view down into Drummond. He'll hear the music from Drummond, they're all playing Simply the Best or whatever, or the heat is on. He'll hear that music, he'll hear the announcer keeping the crowd entertained. He'll think he's nearly at halfway, but you're not. You've got to drop all the way down into halfway. Lots of people, there are always rumors that halfway is not halfway, and that in fact it's a little bit further. That is not true. When you go under the halfway banner, you are halfway, but of course only technically. The real halfway comes later on, mentally and physically. Mentally,
it's the mental fortitude of trying to approach this race. Gertes, you saw a moment ago, he's currently in second place. So we had about 30 seconds in front of him is Charles Sousa. We go back to Helena and Olesia Nurgalieva. Now, before we get more views from Helen Luca, the Nurgalieva twins out in front of the women's race by 4 odd minutes. We spoke to both twins earlier this week. We've already heard from Elena speaking about being adaptable and versatile in this race and seeing what you can do on the day. But we also heard from her twin sister, Olesia.
For me, very difficult. Tell the truth, for me, very difficult training now because constantly my mind about my son. In this time I training without my son, but every evening, every morning I call my son, I listen or I look my old picture of my son, and it's me give power and good motivation for training for running. So I think will be very good always. So I hope that I'm come back with good news.
How long did you go without seeing him? Was it weeks? How long did you not see him for?
Today will be 23 days.
But that's hard, eh?
Yeah, very hard.
But if you look at your fitness compared with the early years, do you feel that you're fit or maybe not as strong as you used to be?
I don't remember my condition last year, but in this year I think very short time for recovery, so I don't know what happened the 1st of June, but I hope that will be very so all the best.
Do you have the same race plan? Are you going to run with Elena?
Yes, I think we run together at first. After that, the situation show what will be do.
So Alessia Nurgalieva, the views after her sister, but certainly she's talking about missing her son as well. It's big away from family, and when you are a runner, of course, you do have to make a lot of family sacrifice as well. And I think that's something that is less focused on when we talk about the elite athletes, Helen.
Well, when you look at the stats of these girls, Elena, her fastest down run is 6 hours 7 minutes and 12, and her slowest is 6:13, and that's six runs. So these girls demonstrate absolute consistency. Then we look at her sister Alessia. She did not run the last down run, but her times, her fastest is 6:10.03, and her slowest is 6:13. So if anybody wants to talk about consistent runners over Comrades Marathon, it has to be these two ladies.
Tace going down the hill. Bruce, that's a big run down from the top of Inchonga down into Drummond.
It's a very steep plummet, is a better word, almost. Plummet down into Drummond. It looked like he was catching a runner ahead of him, and it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be a very fast time going through halfway.
Well, that's interesting, because 2 hours 31. Well, they don't have too far to go now. Charles Souza is ahead of him. We're not quite sure by how far, but it can't be too much. There's a hot spot at Drummond, so Souza will be gunning for that. And Gertes, I think, probably will be gunning for way more than just a hot spot. Not that he'll get it, but he would like to come in the top 3 and be the first veteran, which he is right now. But the other guys behind him, Perura and Elias Mabani, who's another veteran, is also in the top 5 at this stage. So there goes Gertes down the hill.
Down towards a big welcoming crowd of spectators, lots of music, very exciting atmosphere when you get down there. But straight after you go through halfway, you've still got to start climbing. You've got to work your way out of the bowl that Drummond sits in and work your way all up all those hills towards Bothers Hill Village. There are some breaks, but essentially it's about a 6.5 kilometer climb all the way to the top. And then, as I say, the down run begins.
Well, as we watch Gertes going down the hill, we are looking to do a little news clip and tell us what is happening earlier on today. Well, this is what happened earlier this morning, and that was the start back at 5:30 up in Pietermaritzburg. 19,000 entries, only probably about 16,000 of them out there this morning. And the conditions in Pietermaritzburg with the pyrotechnics powering out of the Benitez start banner there. That's the first for the Comrades Marathon, as far as I know. 19,000 people, and right up front were all the favourites. The conditions this morning were pretty warm. It was 12 degrees or so, and they dropped down, and the leaders went through. That's Engels, one of the early leaders, and the other guys that were making the pace looking for the first hotspot. They went down to Little Polly's, and the conditions, Ross, were pretty good, and the guys were going quickly.
They were, and there was a hint that it would be a hot day, and it certainly seems that it's going to be that way. But these men who took the lead early on were probably pursuing those hotspot prizes. We believe that Charles Souza is the man in the Nedbank kit, who you can just see emerging from the darkness on Little Polly's. He is still the man who's one of the last survivors from this little group of 5 that went out in front. This was a little bit later near Lion Park, I believe, where the first group of 3 men broke away. Gertes was a little bit off this pace at this stage.
And the runners coming up from Little Polly's and working their way into the sunrise, and that's an interesting thing. As you start running this section of the race, the sun comes straight into your eyes.
Well, back now with that was Charles Souza, and this is Charles Souza. And no, that was Charles Souza. We're just looking to see it. But that was the lead-up, the Nedbank man. And, of course, the hotspots are very, very important in the context of this race because there's lots of money. They've already passed one. There's another one at Drummond. Well, still highlights. If you just joined us, we're going to be playing some highlights of earlier on. And this is some of the action earlier on when the guys were still sorting themselves out. The gold medal contenders were quite a long way back. That is Cato Ridge, one of the important landmarks. And the group now that is together, Joseph Maputi and Stephen Muzingi in there. So that was the lead group, well, the chasing group a little earlier on. We're back live down to Drummond.
And here we are approaching Drummond, halfway. And it'll be, this looks like a very fast time. I've always thought around about 2:45 is a more sensible time to be going through halfway on a down run. So this is quick. And we'll see when he goes underneath the banner exactly what the time is.
Fantastic spectator support. And there is the banner. Let's go and get an idea of 2:35. It's going to be around about a 2:36 through halfway. That must be one of the quickest times we've ever had through the halfway. Fantastic branding. It is the huge crowds that find themselves at the halfway mark. And that is our leader, Charles Souza, coming through. There you can see the time on the clock and on the side of the road.
And just in the background, you can see Gert Thys. So we spoke earlier that Thys had moved through. He was one of the early aggressors in the race, but the front three broke away. He's now closed that gap. He's picked them off one by one, and Charles Souza remains. So that's a 2:36.20 odd for Souza. And Gert Thys will get the time gap on him, but you can see him moving over the halfway mat any moment now. So again, Bruce, the down run, the second half usually faster than the first, and that's why a 2:45 puts you in position to run around a 5:30, which is what we normally expect for winning time. This is aggressive. This is 5:12, 5:15 pace. So we would have to say at this stage, the chances of keeping this going probably not as great.
I agree. This pace is not sustainable, and Charles Souza looks as if his run is coming to an end. So we're about to see Gert Thys take the lead, going up the long climb now up to Bothershill Village, and shortly after this they're going to go past a very famous landmark, Arthur's Seat, on the right-hand side. When you pass Arthur's Seat, it's a site in memory of the first multiple winner of the race, Arthur Newton, who won the race 5 times in the 1920s. As you go past, you've got to take a flower from one of the people who are handing the flowers out, drop it at Arthur's Seat, and doff your cap if you're wearing one and say, "Good morning, Arthur." And if you don't do that, you're going to have a terrible second half. So by the time all the runners have gone through, you'll see there'll be a pile of flowers outside opposite Arthur's Seat.
44 kilometers to go. Arthur's Seat on Gert Thys' right. And I wonder if anybody told him about he must drop a flower there. But immediately you see the change in pace. He slowed down. This is the longest hill on the down run, the longest uphill on the down run. And on his left, just coming up, is the Wall of Honor, where everybody puts their names up and you buy a little plaque there. It's a fantastic landmark. To the Road Accident Fund, in fact, is the sponsor of the Drummond halfway mark. Well, as we watch Gert Thys going up the hill markedly slower. Let's go a little bit. We'll wait for third place through halfway, but now this is Thys. He's in second, and the bike is moving up. And let's have a look at that gap with Charles Souza. See how he looks on the uphill. Still keeping a good lead there. There he goes, but what a difference in speed.
And that's a comrade shuffle. That's the shuffle of a runner who's not going to be staying in the lead for too much longer. And I feel sorry for him because it's going to be a long, bitter struggle the second half of this race.
Well, you don't have to just rock up at the finish to get your hot spot. Their rules, I think you have to come in with the first 7.5 hours. So Souza's got work to do. But I guess he's done his homework. And he's also an elite runner. I mean, we know Charles Souza's got a very, very good pedigree. But, Bruce, what lies ahead of them up the hill to the top of Bothershill?
Okay, well, it's pretty much a solid climb with 1 or 2 short breaks. There is a little bit of relief with a slight downhill. There are some bits that are flat, though to be honest the down run there's hardly any flat, and he's going past Arthur's Seat now on the right hand side.
Well, that's the third placed lady, and that is the bike with Eddie Greenwood, the British-born Canadian domiciled runner, 51 kilometres to go. So she's done about 38. And Eddie Greenwood, and she is she was second 2 years ago, and now lying in third place, a long way behind the leaders, the Ngaliagas.
Yeah, and she missed last year, of course, with injury, and so she has come back from 2012, where she, as Ian mentioned, challenged the Ngaliagas. She started today a little bit conservatively. She allowed the Ngaliagas to build up quite a substantial lead early on, but perhaps she has taken the experience of 2012 and decided to go out a little bit more conservatively, and she'll try and make a move as we move into the second half of this women's race.
Well, Eddie Greenwood is down in Durban looking very determined. We had a chat with her earlier this week.
2 years ago it was a tough race for the last 10 kilometres. I never really gave up, like you've got to keep fighting until the end. I think it was before the last 10 kilometres, like it was about 25 kilometres to go where I lost Elena. But then I did start picking up ground on her again. I could still see the timing clock on the car ahead of me. So I kept pushing, but ultimately I ran out of ground. I just didn't have enough speed towards the end.
What have you changed now for this year to go one better?
I definitely feel I've got more speed. My training has been a little bit different in that before I did a lot of miles, and I think I maybe didn't quite have the speed that I needed. And I think just that experience of 2 years ago of being in that situation, they're really competitive and pushing it to the end, I think that was a learning experience in itself.
Are you geared up mentally to win this race now?
Yes. I have to be geared up to win it. I know it's a big ask to win the Comrades. Obviously, it's not something that's done easily. I think 2 years ago I was maybe slightly in shock that I could possibly in there to win it. I got so close. I remember that race absolutely every single second of it, and that's going to be pushing me on Sunday to do the very best I can. It's rather difficult being a woman sometimes to watch the women, because if you don't go out in the lead, they can get lost among the men. But certainly at the start, I do want to be aware of who's in the lead. I may be slightly more cautious in the beginning, like I'm not one necessarily to push myself right to the front. I'm aware I can't get too far back, otherwise I just lose contact with them. So I'm definitely looking out where the lead women are, but I'm happy to sit back a little bit if needs be, until I feel that it's time to make a move further to the front.
Well, Ellie Greenwood back at Drummond, that's 4th and 5th place. The first 3 men are through. That's number 4 and number 5. That's Mike Focaroni going through in 4th place, and Marco Mombo in 5th place. So there's quite a lot happening there. So we have 3 runners through. Souza is maybe still in the lead, but Tace was catching him. And then Focaroni and Marco Mombo in 4th and 5th. So lots happening up there, Ross.
Yeah, and you can see the time here, 2:43. So that puts these men at 6.5 minutes down on Charles Souza and Gert Tace, who we saw go through 1st and 2nd. And so these are big gaps, but these men are running the kind of times that we would have expected, even maybe Bruce a little bit fast here. And when we see the big protagonists, the Muzingis, the Mamabolos, the Jonas Boods, they will be going through considerably slower, but the winner likely to emerge from those groups.
Elias Mabani running through in shot there, veteran, a very, very prodigious racer. He's got gold before now in the Comrades Marathons.
Yes, and 2:43 is still a very fast time for halfway. And here comes a change of leadership.
This was recorded a few moments ago. Gert Tace now catching up to Souza and moving into 1st place. So Gert Tace will once again, as he was in 2012, find himself leading the Comrades down run. The question is, will he be able this time to close it out and finish in Durban also in 1st place?
And Ross, just my own experience, a little bit too early to be leading. I would not want to lead for the better part of 40 kilometers. That is so much pressure. And you know now the whole of the pack is chasing you. You've got every single second standing on the road taking time splits on you and their runner. It's better. I I prefer to be sitting back in that pack that has all the contenders and to be sitting back there and waiting. The race hasn't started properly. On the right-hand side, the Wall of Honor, Geerthuis is running past it. Those are the shields up there of every runner who has run the Comrades Marathon. You can buy a shield and put your name up there.
Yeah. So 7 men through the halfway mark. A beautiful day in the KwaZulu-Natal. Charles Souza was in the lead. Now Geerthuis. There's the live shots of our race leader. In third place, over halfway, was Colin Perura. Then we had Zimbabwean Mike Fokoroni. Perura, of course, also from Zimbabwe. Marco Mambo. 3 Zimbabweans lying together. Then we had Sotiwe Ndlela from South Africa. Elias Mabani, the second veteran, was 7th over the halfway. So far, 7 men through halfway. And they all ran around about 2:46 or better.
And you could see just how quickly Geerthuis was able to open the gap over Souza once he caught him. So that's an indication that Souza really was running to halfway, and he will now try and battle his way to the finish line in the time required in order to claim those hotspots, which he hopefully has earned on the road today. But this is your leader, Geerthuis. Bruce spoke, leading the race this early, difficult. Okay. Leading the race alone this early, twice as difficult. And then third thing is leading the race with a 2:36 first half, very difficult. So Geerthuis is a pedigreed athlete, but this is going to be a new challenge altogether.
Well, back at halfway now, this is where all the action is happening. The time coming up for 2:46. This is what we expect. And we look back down under that road accident fund sign. And there we have a big group coming. And this is where the action are. And a lot of the favourites, we've had top runners like Mok Fokoroni and Geerthuis already through. And let's have a look at some of the guys coming through that halfway mark.
And this is a sensible pace. These runners know exactly what pace to run. And to me, a 2:46 going through halfway, even that is quick, but it's sensible. The runners ahead have gone through far too quickly. And these runners know what they're doing. They're keying off each other and they're going through halfway in 2:46, a very good pace.
Rufus Porter there in the orange colours. Joseph Maputi, beg your pardon. Stephen Muzingi's already gone through. So that is a big group of guys. And Bruce, that is the lead group that are watching one another.
And it's very early to make a prediction, but I would say that your winner is going to come from that group and possibly 1 or 2 of the runners coming through now. It would be interesting to see the Jonas Bood group and the Larkin group and to see how far they are behind. But the winner is going to come from somebody who's crossed the line in about this time.
Well, funny you should talk about Bood and Larkin because they are not in contention right now. Because other runners in that group were Leboko Noto, Lebahang Monyele, Bethchul Nechi Fefe, Sendizen Keys, Lebahang Mohani, Charles Chiani, Rufus Porto, Bongbusa Matembu. Those are some of the guys in that group. And Jonas Bood looks like is really quite a long way back. Let's just see where he is. The tall Swede who was second last year. He's pretty much out of the contention right now.
Well, he's about a minute behind at halfway, and I don't think out of contention by any means. I think 2:47 on a particularly hot day. This is probably a sensible race for Bood. Whether the group in front will blow up to the extent that Bood can emerge as the winner is a big question, because the men in front of him, there's some big names, some huge pedigree there, former winners of this race, top 3. So Bood may have a challenge to catch all of them, but I think you will see him coming through quite aggressively at the end.
You can run a 5.5 hour off at 2:48 at halfway, so that can be a winning time. And the last down run, Mamabola ran 2:31 and won it. So I wouldn't say they're out of contention yet.
So if you've just joined us, the leaders now through the halfway mark in the 89th Comrades Marathon, running up the hill, back up to the top of Bothas Hill. We had Geerthuis, the South African record holder for the marathon. That was a long time ago, but he's still in fine shape. He is a leading veteran and he's leading the race. And Charles Souza was lying in second place, but all sorts of top contenders behind him, like Elias Mabani, Leboko Noto, Mike Fokoroni, and that looks like Camille Herron. I think it is back in the ladies' race. Camille Herron, the American, in fourth place.
Yeah, so this is fourth place. She was third earlier on. But we saw previously Ellie Greenwood has now caught and passed Camille. And so we have the Nagalievas, then Greenwood followed by Camille Herron. And Bruce not looking particularly smooth and relaxed at this stage. And it's early days yet in this women's race.
Well, as we know, there are lots of strange running styles, so maybe this is her running style. But she's on that tough climb up to Nchanga, and it's hard work at this stage.
Well, Stephen Mozingi, 3-time winner, back in 28th place, over halfway. But let's stress, and I think I'm going to ask Ross to just emphasize this. The time of the leaders through halfway was very, very fast. 2:46 is almost an ideal halfway split, and there are a lot of guys that are just around about there, so don't write anybody off.
You absolutely can't, and there's such a big pedigree group, and there must have been about 20 men come through between 2:46 and when we saw Jonas Boerd and 2:47 high. So there are a lot of guys who are hitting that halfway mark in pretty much what you would have thought would be ideal for this. So I think there will be a great deal of attrition, and there will be a great deal of change happening over the next half of this race, because this third quarter, Bruce, once you start dropping down towards Durban, that's where the race is actually won or lost.
Don't forget, you can win a Toyota Corolla Quest in the SMS competition. It runs all day, and your money goes towards the Amabidi Comrades charity. So just SMS the word Toyota, just one word, Toyota, to 34068. That SMS costs you R1.50.
Right, well, here's Camille working her way up that very long climb up the back of Nchanga, and then she'll drop down to Drummond at halfway. This, as I said, is a tough part of the race. And it's a part where the novices further back are going to be saying, "Are you sure we're doing the down run? Because I've done nothing but run uphill all morning."
Well, Camille Herron with one glove on her left hand, and doesn't look very comfortable, but that's the way she runs, and she just keeps on going all day. And she is in fourth place. The Nagalieva twins are way out in front, and I guess we're looking for them pretty soon to go through the halfway mark. Then it's Ellie Greenwood, then it's Camille Herron. Shanae Bosman was back in fifth place, and a long, long way back, we don't know, but Zola van Pieterse was in 11th. I think Zola could edge her way through possibly to get a gold, but we'll wait and see later on. That's back at Camperdown, and this is where the real masses come through, 20 k's from the start.
And these runners are still doing well, most of them still running. Just gone through Camperdown, heading towards Cato Ridge, rolling hills with sugarcane on either side, and then huge crowds at Cato Ridge. Lots of spectator support there, lots of people braaiing, and a very festive atmosphere when you get to Cato Ridge.
You can see this is a point.
Multiple winners came before and after Bruce Fordyce, but none have come close to matching the 9 first places achieved by the legendary, ultra-ordinary Bruce Fordyce.
KEPSITA, Sustainable People Development for Prosperity through partnerships with business, communities, and government.
In January 2014, Flora took over the small town of Villiersdorp with one goal in mind: to lower the town's cholesterol in just 21 days. 164 residents who discovered they had elevated cholesterol levels took up the Flora Challenge and were supported one-on-one by the Flora team. The Flora Cholesterol Challenge and the residents of Villiersdorp have more than shown us how by supporting each other, we really can make a difference to our own lives. The results speak for themselves. 96% of participants reduced their cholesterol, and the average cholesterol level of the town decreased by 24% in only 21 days. Thank you, Villiersdorp. We are inspired.
Back
at Camperdown, 20 kilometres into the race. It's a nice and cool morning, but these are the guys that are probably going for maybe a safe bronze back between 9 and 11 hours. And I think that the bronze medal is a very comfortable time. And Stephen Myers, Bruce knows all about it.
Yes, my clubmate Stephen. He started running about 7 years ago. He's done about 100 marathons. He competes in the 1,000-kilometre challenge, which is to try and run 1,000 kilometres in a standard year, but he does well over that. He races 3-4 times a week. He will run a race on a Saturday, jump in his car and go all the way across country to run another one on a Sunday. He loves competing, and he's run overseas quite a lot as well.
So there we see where Stephen is in the race. He's just short of the 30k mark, and we've got some stats on him. We can see his heart rate at the moment is 147. So for a 53-year-old man, the maximum heart rate would be in the range of about 170. So that gives you some indication. He's probably working at about 70% of his maximum. We'll track that over the next sort of, for him, probably 8 or 9 hours of this race, and we'll see exactly what happens and try and explain a little bit about what the cardiovascular demand is of running a race like the Comrades.
And this for Stephen is a training run for him. A more important race is the Washi 100-miler between Port Alfred and East London, which he will run in July. I think he's done 2 of those and heading for his 3rd one, and that's where he can get some serious mileage, because he likes to build up as many kilometers as he can in the course of a year.
Well, that's Camperdown, and these guys have got a long, long way to run until they get to the halfway mark at Drummond. It's a long way. They've got all the way down past Cato Ridge. They got on Harrison Flats and all the way over in Chonga down to Drummond. And of course, our leaders, some time back, have gone over all the way down through Drummond, through halfway and up towards Bertha's Hill. So these guys are a long, long way back, but they're quite happy. They're all looking very relaxed, and 732 meters above sea level, so that's quite high. It's still quite high in the course.
Well, of course, Ian, the down run doesn't start until Bertha's Hill Village, and then you lose all your altitude very rapidly. At this stage, they're still fairly high up.
Well, that is the halfway mark at Drummond. Runners still coming through, a lot less dense than the way back at Camperdown, and we must have probably, I guess, 40 or 50 people through that halfway mark by now. It is in a very, very scenic part of KwaZulu-Natal, and the Valley of 1,000 Hills is off to the runner's left, and it is just wonderful to be there. And we went out there for a little feature on that part of the world.
The Valley of 1,000 Hills. It's the great crevice between the start and finish of the Comrades Marathon which inspires runners and tourists alike. Forming around the valley created by the Umgeni River and its tributaries, it is a breathtaking sight at various points, and some of the greatest traditions of the Comrades can be found at this place. The Wall of Honor, which overlooks the valley, is a permanent landmark to commemorate the ultra-ordinary feats of those who have run the race. Among those who adorn the Wall of Honor are the first multiple winner of the event, Arthur Newton, whose first of 5 victories came in 1922. A man who defined the never-say-die spirit of Comrades, 5-time winner Wally Hayward, the youngest winner in his time and the oldest finisher at 80 years in 1989. You'll find these men along with a plaque remembering the 5 wins of Jackie Meckler, also can be found on the Wall of Honor. Frith Vanamava's 1989 run is legendary, and her down record of 5 hours 54.43 still stands. 1995 winner Sean Micklejohn's history in the race is not complete. Just last year he won his age category too. The walk down memory lane will feature the name of the 90s 9-time winner Bruce Fordyce, 4-time winner and 40-time Comrades finisher Alan Robb, women's winner between 1985 and 1987 Helen Luker, who these days lends her vast experience with our television audience, and then the most decorated women's winner of the race, 8-time champion Elena Nurgalieva. Stories that have been completed and those that are still to be written can be found overlooking the Valley of 1,000 Hills on the Comrades Wall of Honor.
The hill, and that is the route map of the hill up to Bertha's Hill, and that really is where the down run starts. Long, long climb, plunge down to Hillcrest, and then down Fields Hill into the Pinetown Flats, which aren't flat, and your legs are pretty shot by then. Then the climb up Cowie's Hill, and that is the last, if you like, of the big 5 hills on the down run. And over the top it goes, very, very tough. And then a long, gentle downhill all the way, a little bump over 45th Cutting, a bump over Tollgate, and then down to the finish at Comrades. And we're back at halfway. That's René Grobler going through in the colours of Nedbank. We saw him in the front row earlier on this morning, and I must say that I thought that René Grobler perhaps had a little bit of time, but he doesn't look very comfortable there. He was maybe a top 20 finisher, but maybe Renier can pull something out of the hat on the second half.
We've been told that already more than 100 runners have gone through halfway, so Renier quite far back at this stage.
Interesting to look at that stat of more than, in fact, it's significantly more than 100. We expect that the Nagalieva twins, or the women's winner, will end up in the first 50, and that is pretty much the norm these days. So they are way out of the top 100, and that's how much they tend to catch up on the second half.
That's right. The ability to manage the race is one of the key things that determines a successful Comrades, and so the Nagalievas are experienced, they've done it, they're elite, and so they probably show what should happen for an athlete who wants to run just outside 6 hours. All those we've seen, not going to achieve quite the same result.
5th place, Shanae Bosman. She ended up 5th last year on the up run. And let's have a careful look there at Shanae. Firstly, Bruce, where she is, and secondly, how she looks. I think she looks very comfortable, very controlled, and I'm quite impressed.
She's looking better than she did last year at the same stage, so maybe she's going to be in contention. Seems like a well-judged, well-paced race at this stage.
Ahead of her, Alessia and Elena Nagalieva, Ellie Greenwood and Camille Heron. So the top South African is now in 5th place, and I think it's still a long way for her to go. She's climbing up in Chonga as far as I can see from those close-up pictures, but she doesn't have too many men with her. It's Shanae, the very experienced South African over the cross-country half marathon and now the ultra-marathon distance. We caught up with her a couple of weeks back.
Golden girl Shanae Bosman, with her model looks, has revived the hope for a local winner in the women's race after years of international domination. In her debut last year, the race with the largest dropout rate due to the heat, Bosman was pipped in the finishing chute to end 5th. She was the first South African woman home.
Ja, verlede jaar was nogal 'n leerskool geweest vir my. En almal het vir my gesê ek gaan 'n punt swaar kry en ek moet sê ek het swaar gekry want ek het glad nie geëet op daai dag nie. Ek het dis 'n fout wat ek gemaak het want ek het nooit daarmee geoefen nie en ek wou nie daai kans vat op Comrades dag nie. En ek onthou toe ek in die stadium ingaan, ek was nogal 'n bietjie de mekaar geweest. Nie de mekaar nie, maar ek dink was moeg en was warm geweest. En toe ek ingaan, het ek nog my blom gekry en ek was 4de. En my 100 meter oor om te gaan, die grootste skok van my lewe, kom maar nog 'n vrou by my. En ek moet sê ja, dit was nogal erg geweest om so teen die einde deur iemand verby te gaan, maar ek moet sê dis 'n les wat ek geleer het. Ek sal nie weer as ek so naby aan die einde is nie omkyk nie. Ek dink ek het my groot les daar geleer. So ja, dit was ek moet sê Comrades verlede jaar was great geweest. Toe klaar gemaak en was Bruce se eerste woord aan my geweest. Van hierdie was nie Comrades nie. Hierdie was een van die moeilikste Comrades, asseblief kom terug. En ek het dit besluit. Dit was vir my so, al was dit 'n moeilike reis geweest, was dit nog steeds vir my baie lekker geweest.
Equipped with experience and an even deeper passion for the Comrades Marathon, Shanae won't make the same mistakes again.
Ek het met beplanning hierdie jaar het ek 'n paar dinge anders te gedoen. Ek het nie harder gaan oefen nie. Ek het 'n paar nuwe dinge ingesit in my voorbereiding. Ek het op my oefenkamp waar ek vir 3 weke in Graskop was, het ek geleer om te eet. Verlede jaar het ek niks geëet op Comradesdag nie. En ek dink dit was my grootste fout geweest, want jy kan nie daai 89 kg hardloop sonder om iets te eet. Jy kan nie net drink nie. Ek het net gedrink en ek het hierdie jaar geleer om aardappels en piesangs te eet en dit het goed vir my gewerk. En dan seker hier van 30, 40 kg af, gaan ek begin om selfmatig te eet. En ek dink dit gaan 'n groot verskil maak, want ek onthou verlede jaar as mens nie kos in jou liggaam het, jy begin later jy drink, maar jy begin later de mekaar wees. En ek wil nie hierdie jaar daai gevoel kry nie, want ek wil hierdie jaar nie soos verlede jaar alles stadiger klaar maak. Ek wil hierdie jaar met 'n goeie eindpoging kom. Al is ek nie daar in die begin, al sien julle my nie selfs by 70 kg nie. Ek het 'n plan om liewe sterker klaar te maak soos wat ek verlede jaar gemaak het met 2 Oceans. Dis my hele plan.
It'll be Shanae's first down run and the first major race without her father, who she says was her biggest supporter.
Hierdie jaar gaan nogals my spesiaal wees, want ek wil hierdie reis aan my pa opdra wat oorlede is. En ek weet ek gaan suffer, maar as ek begin moeg raak, gaan ek dink aan my pa en ek gaan dink aan weet jy, ons almal suffer in hierdie wedloop. En ek gaan weet hierdie ding vir Suid-Afrika en ek weet hierdie reis kom net een keer 'n jaar. So ek gaan vasbyt. Ek het van hierdie jaar vasgebyt, maar gaan hierdie jaar nog meer vasbyt. En ek weet van vasbyt soos wat ek hierdie jaar vasgebyt het met my ooraktiewe skildklier. Daar was party dae wat ek wel opgegee het, maar ek gaan nie opgee nie. Ek dink dit het my sielkundig ook al klaar reeds voorberei vir hierdie dag wat kom.
Along with hubby Carl's support and the vocal crowd that you'll only find en route the Comrades Marathon, Shanae aims to succeed in 2014.
Ja, ek dink met die Suid-Afrikaanse support agter ons Suid-Afrikaners wat die reis hardloop, kan ons net 'n great reis hê. En ons wil die beste gee wat ons het. En ons het die beste supporters in Suid-Afrika.
Well, the great South African hope in terms of the women's race. Shanae Bosman hoping that she can do something for the nation in this Comrades Marathon. In terms of Shanae Bosman and her hopes and dreams, great support from her husband as well, the 38-year-old, as she goes for gold in the Comrades Marathon of 2014. Now back to a halfway, and that's the Nurgalieva twins, Helen, who are making their way through a halfway. So we're at Drummond now, 3:02:50. That was recorded just a little while ago. So not to confuse you with the time in the truck and the time on the screen. 3:02 or 3:03, Helen, the Nurgalieva twins coming through. As the leading men came through at 2:36, Charles Sosa and Gertes, but certainly the Nurgalieva twins, 3:03, that's a decent looking pace. There's 6:07 to 6:10 runners on the down run, so a decent pace here.
Well, it's good, and if they can maintain this pace, they will run the times that they've previously run. But many top runners try to almost run a negative split. That means it's taking advantage of the downhill and actually picking up the pace. So if they can pick up and improve on 3:02, we're looking for quite exceptional times, but it is still halfway.
So halfway indeed, sponsored by the Road Accident Fund and Hori Tamaho alongside as well. A lot of the favourites now have gone through in the men's race, but certainly the favourites for the women's race starting to pass through now. The Nurgalievas over 4 minutes ahead of anybody chasing them, the likes of Camille Heron, Ellie Greenwood, Tabitha Tasa of Zimbabwe, and of course Shanae Bosman, Jane Woodall, the two South African ladies also currently in the top 10. Although Zola Budd is also pushing the pace a little, so some familiar faces coming in a little later, but still a little way off the pace. And these are the athletes coming through halfway currently. Hori, the Nurgalievas, well and truly clear those, must be said.
Go vile molaleng doine gore ga gona mongwe wa ka tloga go a sheba ga botse go feta Russia go ba mafatlana go tshekwa gona Russia ke ba re ba letile nete go bile bjalo go me ba tsere maemo a pele ge re fitla kwa go la Drummond e le go bogare fo re bego re le gona e fela ga bjalo go itetša ga botse gore lebelo le kwa godimo bjale ka ge Helena ba la editše fa gore lebelo le ka fo le bego ka gona ge le ka tšwela pele le ka mogo gona mafatlana ga Nurgalieva ka tla feletša le gore a šoma ga botse. They're looking good, the twins, Helen.
Well, they are, but also looking good in third place, as we see on the screen, just going through halfway, is Ellie Greenwood. 3:07, that's also going to convert to a 6:15 or quicker, and we know that she ran a quicker second half last time, so it looks like we're in for a good race.
And she's not a bad runner, and she's certainly one of the runners who can step up to the Nurgalieva twins. Bear in mind, I think it was Alessia had to pull out in 2012. Ellie Greenwood doing herself a great service, finishing second in 2012 to Elena Nurgalieva. She's a strong finisher, but Zola Budd continues to rise. She was 8th a short while ago. She's up to 7th in the women's race overall, and running with purpose, as Bruce mentioned earlier. She's running with purpose. She's running for Kortke, a former coach of hers. I can tell you in the men's race as well that Charles Sosa has unfortunately bailed. He's had to. That pace was just so aggressive. Tried to impose himself on the race, particularly early on. It was just a pace that he couldn't keep up. But Gertes is still going hard. He stopped after 63 odd Ks the last time he went out at this sort of pace in the down run. But he's hoping that he can somehow maintain this pace. If he's going hard, he's ambitious and he's looking to prove it.
ke ka fao a fela go kitima ka gona twaene ngwaga ka ngwaga e fela maafrika borwa ba golo fela gore lebakeng le yena gerte isa ka tla a šoma gabotse ge re lebeletse gore mengwageng ya go feta o thoma gabotse a šoma gabotse e fela a name a tswelela re a bona gore Shane Bosman Shule le yena o a re toga gomme re tlatla re bona gore ka bele gore ba batlang ka morago ke ma Helen re a bona gore ba sa tswela pele go feta mo bogareng go la Drummond ba setsana ba tsenelela there's somebody coming Helen.
Yes, that's our fourth lady coming through halfway. Yeah, she's also on a good time, so I think it'll be quite a good race. It'll be interesting to see. Shanae shouldn't be too far behind her, and I think it's just disconcerting because Camille just doesn't look that comfortable when she runs, but that's just the way she does it.
She certainly doesn't. She doesn't look like she's got that confident. You look at somebody like Ellie Greenwood as well, a confident and competent trail runner. She brings that into Comrades Marathon. I think what must be mentioned as well, and something that's not always pointed out, is when you talk about 100k races, when you talk about many of these races, they're effectively done 10 laps on a 10k course. It's not a great change of scenery, it's not a great change of elevation. The Comrades Marathon is completely different, and I think that plays a huge part. So somebody with the background of a Greenwood doing the trail running and that, I suppose is in some sense a lot more adaptive to a race like this.
Re holo fela re shane le ena o tlatla re toga Camille o shetse a fitile gomme re mo bogaren re lebeletse bogare go la Drummond.
Well, that's Vladimir Kotov, Odi.
Yeah,
familiar face.
Familiar face indeed.
Well, you need to go all the way back to 2000, I think, the last time. No, 2004, the last time Vladimir Kotov won, but a great win in 2000 as well.
Well, I think we saw Shanae just on the shoulder of Kotov earlier on, so that indicates that Shanae is possibly going through halfway in about 3:10. And here we've got Irina. Now, she's a very, very solid Comrades runner. I think she's got 4 golds to her name. And Nick Bester, the Nedbank coach, was saying she's in fine shape. So I think she's another athlete that we can look out for. But she is quite a way off the pace because she's actually running down to halfway. She's running down in chunk. We've still got to get through halfway.
e fela mo lebeletse yena a re le na o tloga a na le boitshepo gomme le ka fao ke timago ka gona go etetša gore go ka no tla go ara gore go ya kua pele ka tla o ketša lebelo la gagwe go etetša o ka re mafatlhana ka tla a hwetša le gore a hwetša phadišano ya maemo a godimo le nyaga go ya le ka fao go bona le go ka gona gomme e lego se kgatlhišago ga bjale e fela ge re tlo boela letlhakoreng la banna nakong ya go se fetše pelo re tla re bona gorena e ka ba le gore go na le diphetogo la mafelelo ga re tese o ba le kua pele kua gomme re holofela gore moafrika borwa o sa le gona kua pele jwale ka ge soiza a feleletše le awa nna lebelo le o kare le tla ba godimo kodi twae.
So third in 2013, Irina Antropova, she's certainly looking to improve on that. She's never done better than that third, although in the up run she's tended to fare better than her down runs. The best of her down runs is 6:44, finished 6th back in 2010. But she does turn 33 tomorrow, so an early birthday present perhaps in the offing if she can claim yet another gold medal. But she's looking very good, very confident, the Nedbank runner. You are watching live coverage of the 2014 Comrades Marathon. Bear in mind, social interaction, Instagram and Twitter, hashtag Comrades2014.
When New Zealand's Helen Lucre competed in her first standard marathon in 1981, she never knew 4 years later she would win the first of 3 consecutive Comrades titles. The ultraordinary Helen Lucre.
KEPSITA, Sustainable People Development for Prosperity through partnerships with business, communities, and government. As we raise the skills of South Africans, we move to a more prosperous tomorrow. For over 12 years, KEPSITA has contributed to raising skills in the tourism and travel, hospitality, conservation, sports, recreation and fitness, arts and culture and heritage, and gaming lotteries sector through the partnership with business, communities, and government. KEPSITA, Sustainable People Development for Prosperity.
Well, that's an aerial view of Botha's Hill. Those from KwaZulu-Natal will refer to it as Botha's Hill. Just about anybody else in South Africa will call it Botha's Hill, much like Kloof and Kloof. Certainly you can always distinguish those from KwaZulu-Natal from those the rest of South Africa. But we're looking at the leading men currently. Gartes has been going hard. He's really been going hard and looking to close out on a promise that he started to make back in 2012. Didn't quite get it right in 2012, but he is looking to close out that promise here in 2014, 2 years on. Gartes is looking particularly strong at the moment. He has been going hard. The question is whether or not, Hori, he can hold out on the aggressive pace. This is a man who really has the ability to impose himself on the race and finish it out. Couldn't quite follow through in 2012, but he's hoping to do this properly here.
He's changing his shoes, then obviously is uncomfortable in those takes. Kika for fetola obviously is taking his time. Helen?
Well, 3:15, but I mean, this is extraordinary. I've never seen an athlete stop twice to change shoes. But there was a bit of discussion that there was concern that when he changed his shoes the first time, possibly he didn't put his chip back on. I don't know. Maybe he put on different shoes for the extreme downhills, or I don't know. But you've got to remember, it was about 5 Ks down the road further than this in the last down run that he just stopped and pulled out of this race. Yeah, but quite strange to actually see this in a race.
Well, certainly in terms of Gartes, he only just managed to sneak past Charles Sosa come the halfway mark at Drummond, but it was about 63 kilometers where he stopped in 2012. He's changing shoes for the third time, or he's got the third pair of shoes on in this race, which some find remarkable, others find, well, certainly the reactions have ranged from flabbergasted to rather relaxed. Either way, Gartes has decided a change of shoes is required. We do hope that he's changed the championship, of course, every time he makes the change of shoes. But it's a remarkable tactic, and one wonders if it is going to pay off in this race. Maybe that's what he was missing last time, was the change of equipment.
Well, it is planned, because it looks like his seconds put a chair out there and everything for him. So it would be very interesting to really find out what the story behind this is. But there we are back on the road that is the after Gartes, and just looking for some of the other athletes who are in the second, third, fourth positions.
Well, that's the thing, is, I mean, he seems to have had, he's going so hard that nobody is anywhere close to Gartes. He's got the luxury of being able to stop and being able to run his own race in his own time, and it's something that he believes he can do, go out hard and still maintain that to the very lead. There's the second place runner.
ka bona gore re ka Botha's Hill seswantšho se se bego se tšwelela go wena e be le go bontšha gore re theoga mo go Botha's Hill. Ke sa go kgatliša sa gore re tlatla re ka gona ka ba e le gore botsebotse ditaba morago ga gore yena Gartes go no ba le mokgwa go fetola dieta tša gagwe ka ba e le gore botsebotse story ke eng gona fa ke ntho engwe ya go kgatliša gomme o tla bona gore le ge e le gore se re se dirang ke down run fela go thoma go namelela ena mme e ra gore no Maria fase e fela go no fela go eba le go namelela, though it's a down run, but it's still some a bit of having to go up.
Well, this little bit is one of the worst unknown hills in the race. It hasn't got a name. It's a hill. It's pulling up into Hillcrest. It's nasty, and just on the other side, it's actually ended a few people's race, like my fellow commentator William Tolo. He suffered a severe cramp just a little bit beyond where we see Gartes, and that was the end of his possible first position. Hey, Willie. But yeah, here we see Gartes in looking quite good form still, but we all just holding on. He's just intriguing us.
Well, this is through the Valley of 1,000 Hills, certainly Botha's Hill among the more scenic. But now, has he got a problem with the shoes he's just changed? Gartes certainly a long way out in front currently after going out so hard, so he does have the luxury of a little time. It's whether or not this is actually being disruptive to his race. And I think that's the real concern, Hodi, is how disruptive is this to his race? The constant change, the constant stopping, and now it seems like he's got problems, whether it's with his lace or whether it's with the comfort of the tongue, how it sits. There seems to be something that's not quite right.
Obviously, this is affecting him. O ka bona go fetola dieta ga mmalwa go yena Gertes le ga bjalo bontsha sa ipsine go dieta tše di soja di filwe go ke tsebe gore motlomongwe nke ba mo filetše a bego a itšhudulla ka tšona go e tla ba kaone na e fela go itetša gore le tšona tša di aperego a ka tla a di fetola. He looks like he's going to change these shoes once again.
Well, he's keeping us guessing about a lot of things, but yeah, he's running quite conservatively here, and it's really this is where the race starts. You've got to Hillcrest, and pretty much after you've crested this hill, you've got some lovely long, sort of quite easy bit of running. You can pick up, you can get into a nice rhythm. So, and he'll be still anxious because he'll have memories of the last down run where he only got to about 3 kilometres further.
Well, I can tell you with all the stopping that Gertes has been doing, that Marco Mambo is slowly starting to close the gap in on Gertes. The Zimbabwean athlete Marco Mambo, very familiar, particularly to those familiar with the Two Oceans Ultra Marathon. But as much as people say that there are easier parts in this race, once you've got 50-odd kilometres behind you, 55-odd kilometres behind you, the legs are a lot tighter, and certainly handling various parts of this race becomes problematic. But once you pass the halfway mark, there's also a mental switch, and I suppose it's about the mental fortitude for these runners. But this is ultimately where the downhill begins in earnest, and that's how you adapt to that, how you handle it is crucial to how you finish.
go botlhokwa gore na ka ba le gore go tloga ga bjale pace ya go tlo e laola ka mokgwa mang go fitlhela mang o tlong go fetša boletše ka yena Marco Mambo wena Den gomme o ile a fetša mo maemong a bone ka ngwaga wa 2012 ebile le legala gore la mathomo mo go Comrades Marathon gomme o feleditše le gore o šoma gabotse mo mabelong wa go swana le bo Two Oceans Marathon. Go botlhokwa gore mohlomongwe a tla feleditše le gore le yena o tšwelela ka magetla mo lebelong la go etša Comrades Marathon. I think there's just about 2 or 3 minutes just in between Marco Mambo and Gertes.
Well, he really looked as though he was slowing up, and I think when you start to watch the race at this part, and you've seen the profile of the course that we saw at least just earlier, all that uphill, then pretty much downhill apart from a few bumps. It almost negates what time the people might have gone through halfway in, because if you don't get to Hillcrest and feeling good, not like what Gertes looks now, it's the end of your day. And in fact, I don't think he's got as far as he did in his previous run.
He was at the 63-kilometre mark the last time that he stopped. He tried to walk for a little bit. And I suppose to a large extent it's how you feel. But from what we saw there, it just looks like it might very well be race over for Gertes. I don't think that he's going to be streaking forward, suddenly finding something that'll keep him going for nearly another 40 kilometres. And I think that is something that cannot be overemphasized. Is by the time you reach this sort of stage, you've still got a full marathon to run, and it's with tired legs running downhill. That incline cannot be overemphasized enough, or the descent cannot be overemphasized enough.
Go fedile ka ena Gertes go fedile go molaleng a go bona le gore a ka tla feletša a dira se sengwe le gore šibo thomile gape o fela ma tloga ke se motho a no makala o tla gopola gore ngwageng wa go feta o fihle go dikilomitara tše masome tsela tharo. He's running again, Helen, and this time it's like the pace is a bit higher.
Well,
is that not him?
This looks like Marco Mambo.
It looks like Marco Mambo.
Forward, yeah.
Go molaleng gore Marco o tlo nama a feletša le gore o ya le ka pace ya gagwe o tlo feletša fela go bontšha le yena Gertes.
Well, he's being buoyed by the crowd a little bit, but you know, if anyone has run when you've run sort of 50 Ks and you sit down even for a minute, it's very hard to get up and carry on with some rhythm.
Well, I can tell you that while Gertes is struggling to find his form here at the front, I can tell you that news from behind is that Claude Moshiwa, the defending champion, is unfortunately bailed from the race. He is out of the race. So Claude Moshiwa is not going to be on the winner's podium come the end of this race. He will not successfully defend the title he won last year. Ludwig Mamabolo, however, I believe is looking very strong. He's showing thumbs up to his coach, and he's really looking for a strong finish in this year's race. Currently Gartes leading. He's 90-odd seconds ahead of Marco Mamba, who is closing the gap. So Marco Mamba, the Maxed Elite international athlete, is looking to close on his fellow Maxed Elite athlete. But Gartes running for South Africa, running for pride, and a man with an incredible record behind him when it comes to marathon distances, again trying to conquer this Comrades Marathon, but ultimately finding himself in just a spot of bother near the front. He stopped a couple of times to change shoes, and it looked like for a moment he had hit a wall. He seems to have found a second wind, but can it keep him going for another 35-odd kilometers? I sincerely doubt that currently, and it seems today this race is taking its toll on a few runners already, including the defending champion Claude Mushewa. Now, a short while ago we saw a Pink Drive initiative just on the side of the road as we go through Hillcrest here, but Pink Drive initiative, very important, very much an initiative that's become synonymous with Comrades Marathon as well. Valen Kirtley caught up with some of the organisers.
We're here at the Polosong Hospital, which is on Gauteng's East Rand, to see what the Pink Drive does and to see their work in action. Here at this hospital, they don't have a unit that can do mammograms, and that's where the Pink Drive's mobile mammography unit steps in. They're also educating the community about breast cancer, and early detection saves lives. 1 in 8 women develop breast cancer. The statistics are scary, which makes the work of the Pink Drive invaluable for communities just like Polosong. Runners help ensure that Pink Drive's good work can be done as one of the 6 official Comrades charities.
One of the official Amabidi charities, and whatever funds that are then raised from the Comrades Marathon itself then comes back into Pink Drive, and through those funds we are then able to build more units. We are then able to go into the communities. At the moment we service 103 clinics for free, and it's that money that assists us to increase the number of clinics, the number of patients that we are then seeing at no additional cost to the layman, to the individual who doesn't have medical aid. And that is our target. Our target is to provide those who do not have the medical aid, but not forgetting those people who don't have medical aid, because we're a mobile unit and we do go to the corporates, we do go to the schools, so it's easier for the business that you're not seen as a cost to the company. 15 minutes out of your time to have a mammogram, 5 minutes out of your time to have a clinical examination. Which corporate wouldn't want to have that? So through us going to the Comrades Marathon, it's been huge support that we have received from the Comrades management itself.
Pink Drive have worked tirelessly to educate South Africa's men and women, and they're not done yet.
Well, this unit is extremely busy. The need is there. Breast cancer is on the rise, as well as cervical cancer. But today we obviously are focusing on breast cancer because it's the mobile mammography unit side of it that we are using. And it really is on the rise. And because it's on the rise, because we are creating that awareness itself is encouraging hospitals, the management, the schools, the corporates, everyone to come on board and have their test done. The education is the baseline. It really is the baseline. After the education is delivered, they then receive the clinical examination. Once they have found a patient with a problem, that patient then goes on to the mobile mammography unit. So there's a process that obviously is received. And education is the most important thing, like I've already said, because it creates that awareness. If I educate you yourself, you're going to go from what you have learned here today, you're going to go home and you are going to go and tell 7 other people. You're going to go home and you're going to tell the people at church, the people that live in your house, because they don't know. You have learned something here today which is larger than life itself.
With the fight and passion of this charity, the future looks brighter.
Shine, Pink Drive, shine.
KwaZulu-Natal, sustainable people development for prosperity through partnerships with business, communities, and government. As we raise the skills of South Africans, we move to a more prosperous tomorrow. For over 12 years, KwaZulu-Natal has contributed to raising skills in the tourism and travel, hospitality, conservation, sports, recreation and fitness, arts and culture and heritage, and gaming lotteries sector through the partnership with business, communities and government. KwaZulu-Natal, Sustainable People Development for Prosperity. KwaZulu-Natal, Sustainable People Development for Prosperity through partnerships with business, communities and government.
Well, that's the view of the Comrades Marathon route. The current leader still Gert Thys, and I must tell you the commentators here are baffled by the tactics Gert Thys is employing. He's changed his shoes twice. He's now in his third pair of shoes. And the question is why? Did he try and do lighter shoes, more cushioned shoes? As we go back to the Twitter feed there, Hannah says, good luck today for all the runners. You'll kill it. And of course, you can use that hashtag Comrades 2014. Chocolatina, strong legs to the Comrades runners. Feel a bit bad. I'm sitting at my desk and people are doing a grueling Comrades Marathon. And as many of us, Sydney D, the only exercise he or she gets is running to the fridge these days. And I must say, Ian, I feel kind of the same way. 90 kilometers, a very, very long way to run there. I have to agree with Joy as we look at the Twitter feed. And the lead-ups there, Gert Thys still in the lead. Lots of people watching this marathon in front of the TV, of course. And that's really a South African tradition, Ian.
Well, tweets coming in from all around the country, but the women's race is still looking very, very interesting. Absolutely fascinating Comrades Marathon. The antics of Gert Thys have left us somewhat speechless, and that's not bad for a bunch of commentators. And the women's race, the Elena Nagalieva and Alessia, the two of them running in tandem as they have for so many years. Here's a fantastic statistic about these two women. Up until 2013, in 11 years, there were 22 first and second places available to them, and they got 18 of them. So if that's not dominance, I really don't know. And it looks like, at this stage, they're going to collect another 2.
After 3 hours 31, kuyakhichijwa ke siyabona la insizwa nentokazi kodwa ke sikutholile lapho phambili ukuthi ke khona kumfana laphana umfana ke esingazi kahle noma ke uzokwazini ukubamba lo mqiqo uGert Thys kanti ke duzane kwakhe khona ke uMakhomambo. Yona ke insizwa ke leyo sike seza ukuthi ke ngendlela ke igijima ngayo inamandla kanti ke futhi ke sike sayibona ku Comrades Marathon kanti ke lapha nemuva sizwile ukuthi ke ku number 6 kuze kushaya ku number 11 bagijima ke ndawonye bebonke esingakwazi ke kahle ukuthi kahle hle ukhona yini labafana ke abafana ke nawo umncedisi lapha ngoba kubo ngimusa sesike sambona nabo Stephen Mushingi siswezwile engicabanga ukuthi ke sebegijima ke babheka ke isikhathi bebonke ukuthi ke konje njengoba begijima nje ubani engimshiyayo la ubani ongishiya ngokwesikhathi sekuyileyo timing abasabheke ke break record.
Well, it's just gone 9 o'clock, 3 hours and 32 minutes as our women's leader runs up towards Bertha's Hill, towards the Treverton School. But let's have a look at a little news feed about what happened earlier on today. This is way back at 5:30 this morning, back to the start. For those of you who have just joined us, the conditions at the start were absolutely perfect, nice and warm at around about 12 degrees. Ominously so, in fact, if you were to look at the predictions for later on today. But let's go back to the start. Around about 19,000 people were entered in the race, probably about 15 or 16,000 of them there. We do have a certain dropout. And as they came down in the dark, it was all the favourites were really out of this lead bunch, and these guys way back in the dark, it's somewhere around about 6 o'clock this morning, were chasing the first hotspot, and it was really just a lot of guys that were looking for a little bit of exposure, a bit of fun out front. The real experts and gold medal contenders were a little bit further back.
Die vroeë voorlopers was Charles Souza, Anele Dlamini en Elmore Sibanda, twee Zimbabweërs daar, en hulle het natuurlik gehardloop vir die hotspots soos wat Ian gesê het. Baie vinnig gehardloop aan die begin, so 3 minute 25 per kilometer. Natuurlik geen van die gunstelinge in daardie groep nie. Ons kyk na die atlete Jonas Boot, Steven Muzingi, Ludwig Mamabola was op daardie stadium baie ver agter, soos die 3 voorlopers deur die eerste KwaZulu-Natal hotspot gegaan het na so wat 'n uur.
Esifuna ukubheka ke njengoba begijima nje kanjena sike sezwa ke nawo Steven Mushingi ukuthi njengoba ke khulunywa ngaye unayo injury abe lokhu enesa kancane ukuthi ke ingamphazamisi. Siyazi ukuthi uma usugijime kakhulu i-distance sithanda ke ukuba yinde kuyaye kube khona ke ukuvuka kwalawo ma-injuries nangu-Charles Sosa naye ke egijime yalapho phambili phuthuma ke bona uGertes kodwa ke engicabanga ukuthi ke ongahle aphumelele iwina between the third group members on the third group.
Well, Charles Souza certainly was making all the early running, looking for the hotspot. But of course, Charles Souza would have to finish the race to get the hotspot money. And there were huge big gaps between the top two guys. And Souza was able to hang on to the lead for quite a long time. This, of course, is way back. That was 1 hour 46 minutes into the running of the race earlier this morning. So we're just giving you a running highlight. This is the recorded highlights. Joseph Maputi leading the bunch in the chasing pack at that stage was full of gold medal contenders.
Kan ook sien daar Steven Muzingi 3 keer wenner van hierdie wedloop wat daar in die volgende groep gelê het. Ludwig Mamabolo was ook daar by die stadium agter Charles Souza en Gert Thuis wat in die begin baie vinnig gehardloop het en ingehaal het op die voorloper Charles Souza.
Kuzoba mnandi singazike kodwa ngoba phela njengoba sikhuluma nje sithi ke babheke lapha bedlulile ke ku Drummond ngokwe marathon okwamanje sobheka ke ngoba kusekhona ke imqansana uyazi ukuthi uma udlula ku Hillcrest ukhona umqansa Pinetown ukhona umqansa nokugcina ke la 45 cutting kuya kube nzima kakhulu kodwa ke la sisabona yena futhi lapha uGertes sihamba phambili 3 hours 14 minutes okwamanje.
Well, the real story of the day up till now, and this is going back a little while ago, was in fact Gertes, and not only the fact that he was leading the race, that is the antics of Gertes. That little signal that we saw a while back was to change his shoes. And there was a seconding team ready with a chair. It's almost like a Formula One race. But they didn't do it very quickly because he sat there for quite a while changing his shoes. And we all hoped, and I think he obviously knew what he was doing, to take the championship transponder with the old pair of shoes to the new pair.
Well, he obviously did that with his first shoe change because the halfway mark did pick him up. But Bruce Fordyce was aghast at what Gertes did there. I mean, sitting down after 3 hours of running, you really run the risk of cramping when you get back up, and it's really difficult to get back up as well. And right after that, he had to go up a massive hill into Botha's Hill.
He had a problem with his medicine. Now it's shoes. What exactly?
Well, what exactly was Gertes doing? I guess we'll have to wait until afterwards to ask him. Whenever that will be, but we're back live now, and that was some of the action from early this morning. We still have a long way to go in the 89th running of the Comrades Marathon, and I suspect, that we're going to have a very, very interesting finish. But we're looking now for the second placed runner, which the last time we heard was Marco Mombo, the Zimbabwean, and a 3-time winner of the Old Mutual Oceans Marathon, and that is Marco Mombo looking very, very good.
Hulle is sopas deur 58.27 km Winston Park en Gertes nog steeds eerste daar deur Marco Mombo so wat 'n minuut agter Gertes. Derde plek op die oomblik is Joseph Mputi van Suid-Afrika en vierde David Ramafotole vir die Toyota span ook, en dit lyk of Max Elite en Toyota op die oomblik voorloop in die span kompetisie soos ons hier kyk na Marco Mombo. In die tweede plek op die oomblik, hy jaag vir Gertes wat so wat 'n minuut voor hom is.
Kumnandi kunjalo siyabona ke lezi insizwa kuyizona ke sihamba phambili masibheka ke kuma marathon 2012 ukwehlela lezi okuyizona ke sizibhekile azikaqhamuki la kwi1 and 2 siyabheka kodwa ke lapha na kusukela kwigroup lesithathu uthanda ukuba ngconyana kakhulu engizoke ngifuna ukuqonda kahle nokwazi ukuthi ke ngabe ukuphi ke njengamanje umfana ngapha ufusi Nhlapho okuye kwaba nenkinga ne-registration number yakhe izo.
Well, Marco Mombo, down for the Comrades. We had a chat with him down on the beachfront earlier this week. You've already got one gold medal, but have you been able to make the change from a 56K to a 90K?
Yes, I make a change, but it's only that like last year, I couldn't manage to run very well because of the shoes which I was wearing. But for this year, racing shoes, it's okay. I don't think I can complain about the racing shoes. But I'm focusing to win the Comrades Marathon.
What is your training? Where do you train, and how hard do you train, and with whom?
I train in Zimbabwe. I used to train alone, but sometimes we can meet with Mike Fokoroni and train together. But I stay in Zimbabwe in a town called Bindura.
This year, of course, is a down run. Lots of downhills in the last half. How do you feel about that?
To me, down run is very good for me. I don't complain about down run. I can run it very well.
Marco, what is your wish list? If you had to say, look, this is what I think I can do this year, time-wise, position-wise.
I can't say about the position, but about the time. I was thinking to run 5:30. I think I would be in the first top 5.
"30 kilometers to go, Marco Mamba. He is looking absolutely superb. And when somebody is looking this good, running down through the Gillets area towards Kloof, it really is a contender. And also looking extremely good, looking very comfortable, running faster down Botha's Hill than the Galieva twins, way out on the leaders always.
En Galievas wat baie vinnig begin het. Ek dink dit help dat die twee van hulle bymekaar is. Hulle was dit die halfpadmerk so 4 minute voor Ellie Greenwood, Shanay Bosman in die 5de plek. En ek dink die ander gevaarlike atleet hier is Irina Antropova. Sy was 6de deur die halfpadmerk, maar sy het baie goed gelyk. En hulle is besig om hierdie twee atlete te jaag. Ellie Greenwood weet ons eindig baie vinnig in die wedloop, maar op die oomblik lyk dit of Elena Negolieva en Alicia Negolieva hierdie wedloop beheer.
Njengoba sibonake la kubhaliwe mangabe kufunake laphana ukuthi kube khona okunikelayo ngokuthi-ke laphana uwine ki-Toyota Corolla unganikela-ke kwezinye iy'nhlangano noma-ke abalaba abasiza ukuxhasa ukuthi kube khona kufakayo laphana laphaya. Kodwa-ke njengamanje uma sibheka sibona-ke amakhosazane akwaNegoliova amabili. Sike sebona-ke neyala eNingizimu Afrika inkosazane-ke uChermaine uBosmani okuyena-ke themba lethu la eNingizimu Afrika-ke gijima. Siyakhumbula ukuthi-ke laphana uMelaine van Rooyen ugcine-ke ethi akayigijimi ngenxa yokuthi-ke ufuna kuyogijima-ke ku-World Championship ku-42. Ingakho-ke singamboni-ke namhlanje.
The Toyota Amabidi competition, Toyota Crest, you can win still today. It's going to hand it out later this afternoon, so you've got a couple of hours still to do that. The way you do that is to SMS the word Toyota to 34068, cost you R1.50, all of which goes to the Amabidi collection of charities, all 6 of them of the Comrades Marathon. Third place now, that's Joseph Mputi. I had a chat with him earlier, and he was very confident earlier this week. Joseph Maputi running in the Toyota colours, and ahead of him Marco Mamba and Gert Thys. So running down now in the very, very pleasant part of the course, somewhere around about 30 kilometres or so, 29, 30, 31 k's to go to the finish. And I don't know, it's now clouding over a little bit over Durban, and I think that might cool us down. There's the sign, Hillcrest is ahead, Gillets is behind him, so he's now heading down towards Kloof.
Ja, ek dink die atlete sal bly wees oor die bietjie wolke wat nou daar oorkom. Maar twee atlete vir wie ek uitgekyk het sover is Ludwig Mamabolo en Steven Muzingi. Mamabolo was 16de deur die halfpadmerk. Hy is nou slegs 8ste, so wat 3 minute agter Gert Thys wat voorloop en omtrent net slegs 1 minuut agter Joseph Mputi. So dit lyk of Ludwig Mamabolo, die verdedigende afhardloopkampioen, besig is om hier baie vinniger te hardloop.
Indawo-ke leyaziwa-ke Bruce Fodder is playing field. So khumbula-ke la begijima khona-ke fica Bob de la Monte, fica Jose Chale. Bekuyiyo-ke le ndawo la abafica khona-ke sebehamba kakhulu. Kuselele-ke la amakhilomitha athi-ke awabela ko-30k yaphansi. Kodwa-ke umfana sesibeka imali kuye njengamanje. Uyena kumakhomambo uJoseph Mputi. Siyambona-ke naye futhi elandela.
37. The average age of the male Comrades runners, actually everybody in the field is 42, so it's kind of average, edging up. And these days it's not unusual to see men over 40 getting gold medals. Johannes Kekane did it last year, the first South African home. And Joseph Maputi, he's a tall man, is Joseph, and I think he's got gold medals before now, looking very confident, as is the man ahead of him, Marco Mambo. And I think that these guys are in pretty good positions right now, Arno.
Marco Mambo, eintlik baie interessante atleet. Hy het sedert 2009 in die Comrades gehardloop. In 2009 nie klaar gemaak nie. 2010 en 2011 nie eers begin nie. En in 2012 het hy 'n goeie tyd gehad op die afwedloop weer eens. En verlede jaar weer nie klaar gemaak nie. So Marco Mambo hou daarvan om af te hardloop, maar hy het meeste van sy Comrades glad nie klaar gemaak nie.
Well, let's see how he does later on. And of course, all eyes in literally the whole country are on this man. That is the race leader down there. Gert Thys heading down to the through the Gillets Kloof area, and let's look at that gap. There goes Gert Thys off screen, and there's the second man. Now Marco Mambo is standing. He can see Gert Thys. He maybe doesn't know quite what Gert Thys has been up to today, and he's going to chase him down. But I think that Marco would make a big mistake to go really too fast, try and race him down, get him too soon, but he's looking good, and the gap maybe, I don't know, maybe 1.5 minutes.
He is a brave man, but comrades and Toshins, those are two different things. Siyazwa ukuthi-ke laphana emuva kunensizwa futhi esondela kakhulu uMthembu ubongimusa-ke number 7, Ludwig number 8, Stephen Muzingi number 9, kanti ku-Prodigal Khumalo-ke ulaphana ku-number 10. Ngiyabona ukuthi-ke hayi secishe kucace manje top 10 kuma-gold medalist.
The statistics are in millions of them in the Comrades, literally. But one of the key ones today is whether Elena Nogalieva will win this race. Because if she does, it will be her 9th win. And now age 37, number of Comrades 11, and 8 of them she's won. So if she picks up another victory today, it will be 9, which equals Bruce Fordyce. So that is a significant statistic. I asked her this week, how important is that? She said, well, no, I just take it a race at a time. But I think that's not true. Deep down, she wants to equal the king of the Comrades and somehow become, some sort of a female version of that, I guess.
Ja, die koningin van die Comrades natuurlijk, Elena Nogalieva, maar ek dink sy sal klaar dit. 8 wenne. Zolabad wat ook baie goed hardloop op die oomblik. Sy was so wat in die 9de plek of 7de plek liewers op halfpadmerk. En Elena Nogalieva wat lyk of sy stadig begin weghardloop hier vir Alicia, haar suster.
Well, 8th at halfway mark in the women's race was Zolabad Pieterse. And she's running a remarkably good race. At that stage, she was the 2nd South African. So on the South African stage, Shanae Bosman was 5th. Then it was Zolabad Pieterse, in fact, in 7th position over the halfway. So 2 South Africans in the top 7.
Akumnandi kakhulu lokho yini masizwa ukuthi-ke uzola-ke usekhona ku-top 10. Kodwa kukumangaza ukuthi-ke ngoka Charmaine Bosman ubethe-ke uzogijima-ke her own race ukuthi-ke angaphiki nama-Russians ngoba-ke iwona akazi ukuthi anzani ayazi futhi-ke nayo le ndawo kodwa akakuvumi njengamashe.
Elena Nogalieva wat nou begin weghardloop vir haar suster Alicia en dit lyk my dis hier waar die wedloop besluit gaan word. Tensy Ellie Greenwood of Shanae Bosman nog iets in die tank het en dit lyk of Elena Nogalieva op die opdraande nou begin om haar wedloop bietjie warm te maak.
Well, the men's race shaping up to be fascinating, as it always is on the down run. 3 men ahead of this group. That is the battle for 4th place. And let's have a look at some of the men in there. Stephen Muzingi, 3-time winner, 7 gold medals. And remember, this is the battle for 4th place. And Rufus Porto, he got gold last year. He's in there as well. We've got all sorts of favourites. Stephen Muzingi, Ludwig Mamabolo, and Stephen Muzingi, the Zimbabwean, he's a bit cagey about his prospects, so he doesn't like to put too much out there, but we did have a chat with him earlier this week. We'll come back to that just in a while. We'll give the Muzingi interview. But some of the others, it looks like Bongmus Matembu, and a couple of other top favourites. Rufus Porto on the left, Stephen on the right, beg your pardon, and Stephen Muzingi. And I think that looks like Laboka Noto at the top, the back of that bunch, the tall man in the red of Toyota.
Iwo la madoda ke sike sakhuluma ngako kodwa ke wabona ukuthi ke noma umbheka uStephen le injury ke abake bakhuluma ngako kukho kulimpa kukho lutho ukhona ke nobongimusa ke la umntaka Mthembu Ludwig Mabulo uyambona ke naye ubongimusa ke olapha ogqoke ke ezihlazenyana ke buva uyabona ukuthi ke zifolile zonke sekukhona ke la ukuthi ke manje sesiyakhethana nobani ukuthi ke ufuna ukwenzani ukhona yini ufuna ukuqashuka noma ke kodwa ke sihamba zodwa ongahlaqhamuke la ngoba ke lapha noma khumambo sike sabona ngathi kusethana uba nenkinganyana kancane akahlaqhamuke kule group.
Well, ahead of them, as we said, are Gertay still the leader, Marco Mambo in 2nd place, but that was the battle for 4th place, and not really so much the battle for 4th place, but it could be the battle for even the winner perhaps, but a very interesting Comrades. And fine conditions out there today, and perhaps not as warm as we thought it might be, and that's good news for absolutely everybody, but it is clouding over, and perhaps that horrible 27 or 28 or even 30 that we were predicting earlier today is actually not going to happen.
Kyk hier na foto's van die Comrades route, nog steeds Gertay wat voorloop, Marco Mambo so 'n minuut agter hom, Joseph Pito net so 'n bietjie verder agter, en natuurlik daardie groot groep wat ons gesien het met onder andere Stephen Muzingi en Ludwig Mamabolo, en ek dink dis my 2 gunsteling op die oomblik. Hulle lyk goed, hulle lyk sterk, hulle is nie wel, soos Gert Thys self doodgehardloop in die eerste helfte van die wedloop nie. En ek dink Ludwig Mamabolo veral lyk baie goed op die oomblik.
Well, the big challenge for these runners, of course, is to go downfield hill, which is the killer downhill, 3 or 4 kilometers long, very, very steep, then the Town Flats, then over the top of Cowie. So an absolutely fascinating competition in store. That's the group running down, a very nice part of the course here down towards Kloof, and that's the battle for 4th place, 3 men ahead of them.
Kunjalo mawubheka ke kulaba gijimi nje bonke okuyena ke ngokwespeed okuyena kwesithanda ukuba ngcono kakhulu kuseyena kuSteven Mujingi ngoba ke uLeonido kwamanje ke akekho la ngicabanga ukuthi ke uthanda ukuhlehla kakhulu sekuyoba phakathi kwazo ke lezi insizwa okunye futhi okusazoqhamuka kusazoba khona ke imqansa kancane yabona ukuthi ke sekukhona ke ukuhleleka ke manje ngathi ke sebeyasihlunga kwabona bebodwa ukuthi kubani kofuna ukuhamba ke phakathi kwabo akakacaci kahle.
Maboko Noto, the tall man in the all red at the back of that group, multiple gold medalist, enjoys the down run and looking for another one today, and he looks in good condition. But at this stage, it may sound silly, but it's still relatively early in terms of the final push for gold medals. These guys are just looking, hoping to feel comfortable and be well positioned. Well, in there, Stephen Muzingi, the 3-time winner, Stephen Muzingi. He had a couple of problems last year with injuries and what have you, but his coach Craig Fry says he's in good shape this year. Let's have a look what Stephen had to say.
This year, last year after Comrades I never raced any race. I just rested for my injury to recover because I forced the injury to run 90 kilometers when it was not healed. So it went worse after Comrades. So I rested. I never ran in race even to compete or 5 kilometers. So this year my first race was 2 oceans, but I never go to 2 oceans to compete. I just went to test my leg to see whether it's going to take me to the finishing of Comrades. But I had strength and endurance, but no speed. So I came back to train speed. For the past 2 months I've been training speed. But the injury is a little bit pain, but I can feel it's better now. I can get to the finishing point comfortable. Like in other runners now, with the advantage, I've got the advantage of in other runners is good now. When going to the starting point, I'll be much confident, like in other runner who wants to win the race. In most cases, people said Mujingi is finished. So I don't think, even most people, they lost hope on me. So maybe it drives me to lose even hope on me again, on myself. So I don't know how I'm going to run, but what I'm going to do is to run with the other runners. If they are not strong, I will run away from them, like what I used to be. Or I will run away from halfway, or I will take them to the finish. I will chase them to the finishing point, like what happened in 2009 when I chased towards 15 kilometers to go. Different strategies I can use. If they allow me to win the race, I will win the race.
They must never forget that you won 3 times, eh?
Yeah, they must never forget, because I seem to be dangerous. If they let me go, if they let me sit with the pack to Pine Town, it's going to be dangerous. But if they run away from me earlier, maybe first 80 kilometers, first 30 kilometers, it's going to be better for them because they open up a gap before halfway. But if they can't open a gap away from me up to Pine Town, it's going to be hard for them.
Well, we're back of Stephen Muzingi in the mix there for 4th place. And that is the downhill stretch down towards Kloof. Looming up ahead of them is the big downhill down Fields Hill. And beautiful homes. This is such a lovely part of Durban. And let's have a look at who pops up out of those trees. That is a battle for 4th place. Looks like there are 6 guys in there from this position. That's our camera helicopter buzzing overhead. Sometimes it's difficult to get shots out from the motorbike under those trees, and we'd rather take a nice global view rather than get some breakup under those trees. But that is now a very comfortable part of the route, and you can see there's not much sunshine on those trees, so it's clouding over. And in there, so ahead of them, Gertes, Joseph Maputi, Marco Mambo, But in the mix there, Ludwig Mamabolo, Stephen Muzingi, Loboko Noto, Bongmusa Matembu, Rufus Porto, all sorts of gold medal contenders.
William Okwalakala also in there, and I think Loboko Noto has actually dropped off the back of that pack, Ian. Maar die atlete wat nou deur 'n baie mooi deel hardloop van die roete. Gemaklik om hier ook te hardloop, nie te veel opdraandes en afdraandes nie. Dis baie rustig op die afdraande op pad in na kloof toe. Gerthuis reeds daar deur kloof. Marco Mambo nog steeds agter hom en Joseph Mputu as ons hier in die Nedbank Groen Myl ingaan.
That's one of the great highlights of the route, the Nedbank spectator spot, and it is a day of festivity and happiness for the folks that run on the road and all those that come in on the spectators. So there's action, there's entertainment and bands and all sorts of fun and games for the women. So in fact this Nedbank spot got an award last year for one of the most active activations, if you like, of sponsorship. So Nedbank providing a lot of fun for the spectators and also for the runners they run through. Drum majorettes, singers, bands, face painting, you name it.
Kubuzwa-ke la singena-ke laphana ekloof la khona-ke zonke izinto kuhlaza ngenxa-ke yayo eNedbank nanezinto nje eningi-ke ezihlelele-ke abantu uthi-ke bathokozeke kuyo leyo ndawo nanezinto-ke ezibalulekile ofunela uzazi ngalo ibhenki lakwa-Nedbank. Kodwa-ke laphana sike sabona-ke kukhona ngathi-ke iy'nsizwa ziyahleleka ngoba-ke ngalesigaba ila usukubona khona-ke abantu bonke sebezwa-ke ubuhlungu kakhulu-ke enyaweni sekudinga nje amandla kuphela.
Sien ook 3 atlete daar van die Nedbank Atletiek Club in die pak daar, die 3 atlete daar is Sepitle Paladi, Bongmusa Mtembu en natuurlik Ludwig Mamabolo, een van die groot gunstelinge saam met Toyota Atletiek se Steven Mzingi en David Ramofotole. Dit lyk of dit die 6 atlete daar is op die oomblik.
Running through the kloof area, that's the battle for 4th place. Gerthuis is up front, and we're waiting for some pictures because once again I think maybe a little bit of drama around about Gerthuis. We'll just wait for that.
As ons daar agter op die beeld kyk, kan mens nou vir Gerthuis sien, hierdie groep van 6 wat so pas verby Gerthuis gehardloop het, hy het gestop en hy het nou weer begin hardloop agter hierdie groep. Kan ons sien net daar aan die agterkant van die beeld, hierdie 6 atlete wat voorhardloop, die 3 van die Nedbank Club, Bongmusa Mtembu, Ludwig Mamabolo en Sepitle Paladi, die 3 van die gunstelinge. Daar is Gerthuis, die vroeë voorloper, natuurlik 2 keer sy skoene verander en lyk my hierdie derde paar skoene werk nie so lekker vir hom nie.
Tebasibona-ke uGerthuis esike sagcina-ke simbona kuhamba phambili, sithanda ukusala le group-ke ebiye yesithathu oBongmusa Mtembu, Stephen Muzingi sebedlulile-ke manje ukuyacaca ukuthi-ke seyikhetha-ke umundoda, khetha kumfana-ke emadodeni.
Rufus Porto on the right of the picture. He was in the golds last year. Bongmusa Matembu also in the group there. Stephen Muzingi in the red. And now this is in joint 3rd position because ahead of them Joseph Maputi and the last time we heard race leader Marco Mambo. So the race is on now for the gold medals and perhaps even for a win or second place amongst these guys. So this is a fascinating situation. They're running down now heading into the downhill of Fields Hill.
Ludwig Mamabolo okuyena-ke uvikela-ke isicoco la defending champion angebeke-ke ibuko ekhanda-ke egqoke-ke izihlaza zabakwa-Nedbank zobubona kuyena uLudwig, kuyena laphana ufana-ke ngapha-ke futhi-ke uBongmusa ngalena. Yabona ukuthi kayisicuphile kanti kuSteven Muzingi ngena kusalandela ngemuva laphana. Kodwa-ke phambili siyazi ukuthi khona-ke laphana uJoseph Mputi kanye nayo laphana uMarco Mambo. Ukukhombisa ukuthi-ke lezi zinsizwa-ke zo-6 1 2 3 4 5 6 izona-ke ezithi-ke zifuna ukuqeda ngayo iComrades Marathon 2014.
Hierdie groep van 6 in die 3de plek op die oomblik. Rufus Porto wat net so voor die ander hardloop. Hy hardloop in die oranje klere van Pietermaritzburg Roadrunners. Sepitle Paladi, Bongmusa Mtembu en Ludwig Mamabolo, die 3 Nedbank atlete. Gift Kelehe in die blou van Samankor wat daar hardloop en natuurlik Steven Muzingi liewers aan die agterkant van die groep.
Yeah, Gift Kelehe, brother of the famous Andrew, who was one of the legends honored the other night at the Legends dinner. Gift Kelehe tucked away, little small man, but very talented, already a gold medal winner. So let's see in the blue of the Samankor club, coached by John Hamlet, Bongmusa Mtembu, Rufus Porto, Ludwig Mamabolo. Those are the guys also in that bunch.
neza simbona-ke nawo futhi ugift jobesho njengale kwesobunxele-ke okuyena kodwa-ke ngibona-ke uthanda ukusebenza kanzima abantu-ke kuyibona-ke ngathi-ke badictate ibona-ke abasho ukuthi akwenzekeni ngibona kuyena-ke ngapha-ke uludik bese kuba uye futhi kube ngumusa-ke ofake ibuko uyabona ukuthi ngibona-ke ngathi-ke bafuna ukuthi akwenzeke into abayifunayo kodwa-ke kusekudanyana kancane ukufika-ke laphana phambili futhi-ke nayo indlela inokwehleleka ibe nakukhuphukela kancane bese kuthi-ke laphana phambili ekugcineni iyo bahlunga kahle-ke e-45th cutting.
So 'n tydjie gelede het my gelyk of Steven Muzinge agter afval van die groep af, maar hy is weer terug saam met die groep van 6 atlete. Natuurlik voor hulle op die pad, Marco Mambo nog steeds die voorloper hier wat van het Gert Thys stadiger begin gaan het en natuurlik Joseph Mputi in die tweede posisie nou wat daar hardloop. Steven Muzinge wat daar 'n bietjie vloeistof kry. Natuurlik nog 'n lang pad om te gaan vir hierdie manne, so wat 25 km om te gaan.
So Pietle Paladi, the Nedbank man in the middle. So there are 3 Nedbank men there: Paladi, Bongmusa Matembu, and Ludwig Mamabolo. So Nick Bester's prediction or hope that they would pick up 5 of the 10 gold medals.
Okay, go.
A little bit behind.
Okay, go.
In the 7th position. So ahead of them are
okay, stay with this guy.
The leading, the guys chasing 3rd place. And Gert Thys is behind him, and apparently Gert Thys is now walking. So Gert Thys's antics for the day now include a little bit of a walk. It's now the race hotting up. This is back at the top. He hasn't yet started the big downhill towards Pinetown, the Fields Hill downhill.
Zibheke-ke ePinetown sike sakhuluma-ke ngensizwa-ke sokuyibona-ke zithanda-ke ukusho ukuthi-ke kwenzekeni ukudictate-ke indaba yepace. Umfana-ke lo gijima-ke number 7 manje uGert Thys usesemuva kakhulu okusho ukuthi-ke seziyaqala kakhulu iy'nkinga zakhe zaqala-ke kabi-ke futhi ngoba-ke babheke-ke ePinetown njengamanje. Predical Khumalo-ke uye lo number 7 njengamanje.
Predical Khumalo daar van Zimbabwe, hy was 10de deur die halfpad of liewer deur Winston Park. Hy is by oomblik in die 7de posisie. Nog nie heeltemal nie, daar's 6 atlete voor hom in die 3de of 4de posisie. Dit lyk of dit Gert Thys is wat moontlik daar aan die kant van die pad lê. Ons sal nou rekening kry daaroor, maar ek dink is dalk Gert Thys wat hier uitgeval het.
It certainly looks like it. I don't like to see runners that are down. It's not something we particularly want to see, but that's the way it goes. 4 hours and 1 minute gone in the Comrades Marathon. The record, of course, is 5 hours 20 or so. So around about 1 hour 90 minutes to go to the record. I think we're going to see some times possibly under 5.5 hours today. And it's still going to be a mighty, mighty battle for the men towards the finish. The Galieva sisters, Alessia and Elena, had a really strong lead with Ellie Greenwood in the 3rd place, Neil Heron in the mix, Shanae Bosman up there, Irina Antropova. There goes the group, storming past Gert Thys on the ground.
Ek weet nie of daar die Gert Thys kan wees as die groep so pas verby hom gehardloop het nie. Ek dink dis Marco Mambo wat daar lê. Lyk of hy ernstig kramp het. Met ander woorde, die voorloper nou is Joseph Mputi, nadat Marco Mambo en Gert Thys al 2 bietjie probleme opgetel het.
Yes, indeed, Marco Mambo. Well, a big cramp there. So, there's Gert Thys walking. So all sorts of action here. Just to summarize now, Marco Mambo is down. The group have gone past him. They're now in 2nd place. Gert Thys, who led for a long, long way around about the Bothas Hill mark, is having a seat for the 2nd time today. Well, in fact, for the 3rd when he changed his shoes. Now he's finished. So, and his shoes are off once again. So Gert Thys is out of the race, and also it looks is Marco Mambo. So our race leader now is Joseph Mputi, with those guys, the Bongmusa Matembu group, chasing 2nd place.
Esho njalo nje nikuqinisile ngempela siboneke laphana uMarco Mambo engathi-ke siyamthipha. Umfana-ke ogijima kahle kakhulu kuthiwa ushinzi, kodwa-ke la kuthanda kumxaka uyakoselele phansi. Kanti-ke nayo uGert Thys ke sambona-ke futhi esemile okusho ukuthi-ke hayi kunayo amandla asemphelele. Kanti-ke usokuyibona beze kabi manje uJoseph Mputi yena osihamba phambili, igruphu-ke iyoBongmusa nensizwa koMushingi ibona-ke ngathi-ke sebeze kabi kakhulu kulokhu.
Well, this 3rd pair of tyres not working for Gert Thys. Obviously, the pit stops, I don't know what he tried to do, maybe changing the shoes to prevent exactly what's happening to him now. Possibly has blisters on his feet there. But Gert Thys walking, Marco Mambo down on the side of the road, getting some fluids there. Severe cramping it looks like, but our 2 leaders of just about 10 minutes ago are now looking like they're completely out of the race. And Marco Mambo looking in some agony there as he lies by the side of the road. But this is the nature of the Comrades. It's a race of survival. just as much as it is a race of trying to run as fast as you can, Willie.
Yeah, njengoba ngingasho ke lapha emakhaya ukuthi ke ziningi into ezizikayo njengamanje sizabona insizwa zingena ziphuma kubula ukuthi ke sike sayibona insizwa uHelcase elida laphana kodlula koHilly Crest kubheke koKlufu uthe lapha kufike iKlufu kwasekuthatha uMakhelmamba esimbona njengamanje naye enenkinga elele phasi kanti engakutsho ke lapho balaleli bemakhaya ukuthi ke asazi ngempela ke ngoba ke siyabona liyagengela liya group lena elabelandela uMakhelmamba iyona elidayo manje ekukhona omzingi obongimusa oludwiki oDavid oGift Kelehe oJoseph Mputo asazi ngempela ke kodwa ke ngokubuka nje into ezimazenzeka manje siyabona ukuthi hayi unumber 1 noma kanjani ufanele aphume laphana ke esikunotisile ke futhi babukele lapha emakhaya ukuthi ke isikhathi masifika lapha ku halfway sibona ukuthi bagijime fast kakhulu labelida baphambili.
So Kharteis limping along at the moment. He's got one shoe off, and I think let's talk about. We've got Ross Tucker alongside as well, sports scientist. I mean, you know, Ross, you look at this as a doctor. What do you think the causes of this? And if you factor in the 3 shoe changes as well.
Yeah, so Kharteis' race is done. You can see he's decided that there's no point continuing. He has a long way to go to the finish, and that's probably a wise decision. We saw him take his left shoe off. You can see him walking along there, and he was rubbing the Achilles tendon. And I suspect that it gives us a little bit of a clue as to what was going on with the shoe changes, because if you're carrying some kind of Achilles or calf muscle injury, then what you want is a well-cushioned, quite soft shoe with a built-up heel. And maybe what we were seeing a little bit earlier was Kharteis' attempts to try and finish this race despite that injury. But unfortunately, 89k is a lot of it downhill. If you're carrying a problem into the race, it's going to be exposed, and it's happened to Kharteis. The same seems to have happened to last year's uprun champion Claude Mashiwa, who entered the race with a groin injury. And we've seen Marco Mambo. So this is a race that really shows very little sympathy towards those who come in injured or those who are too aggressive early on. And we're seeing that cost being paid by these athletes now.
So Kharteis' second downrun in succession where he's promised much, but unfortunately the race is decided that he is not going to beat it today. Kharteis not invincible, it seems. Just over 4 hours into this race he has had to withdraw from the 2014 Comrades Marathon. You can get interactive with us, hashtag Comrades 2014. Marco Mamba is out. He was leading for a while. Kharteis, who was leading for a while, is out. Claude Mashiwa, defending champion, is out. But now we are leading, we're with the leading man.
Yeah, so that's Joseph Mputi in the lead, and you saw from the helicopter shot that there's a big pack, 6 men, the heads of state, the men to watch in this race are only about 100 meters behind, and so this race is going to come together with about an hour and 20 minutes left for a dramatic finish, Willie.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think Joseph Mputu is making a mistake now to move in the front, because these guys that are coming behind him are very, very strong guys. And siyabona njengamanje ukuthi ke ugijima i-downhill laphana ubheke khona ePinetown engicama ukuthi le downhill iyona okufanele uyigade ngempela ukuthi awuyigijimi fast, ngoba phela after that downhill kusaziwa lapha ko-Cowards Hill kuzaqala kube nama-hill sibone ke ngempela ukuthi ziyashintsha. Ngeke siyabona nje ukuthi ke akusekude ngempela phambili, kodwa siyambona ukuthi uhambe eqalaza naye ebheke ukuthi ngawubani olayiduze kwakhe.
So Joseph Mputi going down Fields Hill, his best finish in 2012, but this is a man who's got a gold medal behind his name, looking to not only claim another gold medal, but indeed go all the way for the victory here. But Willie, let's talk about going. You've got a rich history in this race, but I think you go back to if you had to talk about your most competitive race, I would suggest possibly 1989. You and Sam Shabalala, the battle there. Just take us through what was going through your mind and your tactics in that race.
I think at this stage it's very important that you don't run too fast, especially because they're running down to Pinetown now, and after that there's a few hills that they still have to climb. So you have to be very, 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 very careful. Especially, the guys that are behind Mputi are very, very strong guys. Musa Mthembu is on that group. Ludwig. Gif Kelehe is not very far behind. Mzingi is also there. So they have to be very, very, very careful.
Yeah, that chase group is packed full of winners of this race, gold medalists in this race, near course record holders, and so there's some serious pedigree chasing Joseph Mputi at this stage. You can see he keeps looking over his shoulder. He was with that group at halfway, and he obviously between halfway and the last 5 kilometers managed to open a lead and is now being challenged from behind for that lead. And so it's interesting the tactics that we've seen. The early pace setters, men who went through halfway 6 minutes ahead of these guys, are gone, and we've been left with those who are running a more sensible race. But now, having come down Fields Hill, is where those who have the legs after the long descents have to start making moves.
Well, certainly when you once you go through Fields Hill down to Pinetown, you've still got Cowie's Hill that you need to deal with. But in terms of records, some people suggesting maybe records might go in this year's race, despite the heat and hot conditions, which may affect the runners later on in the field. But in terms of where the leading runner should be if he's looking to break the record, let's take a look in terms of leading man versus race record. The average speed, the race record speed, that's of course a great, just not quite there at the moment, but
yeah, that's a little bit misleading, because this graph here is showing you the leading man, and of course the leading man changes all the time. We saw 5-10 minutes ago Marco Mambo was leading, and all of a sudden what looked like a severe cramp or muscle injury pulled him out, and all of a sudden the leading man changed. So I think that the men who you will see, Joseph Mputi and the group behind that consists of Muzingi and Mamabolo, these men have run a pretty steady race. They hit halfway in around 2:46, and so they would be looking at something in the range of a high 5 hours 20, and they've paced it really well. So I think that's more or less what we're going to be looking at a little bit later today.
Yeah, siyabona ngempela ukuthi ke izinto ziyashintsha laphana ke njengoba ngike ngasho bale lapha emakhaya ukuthi ke kule stage ngempela noma nobani osebuhlungwini njengamanje siyayibona ke enye insizwa lapha esondelayo emzingi, siyambona ukuthi uyayivala igap laphana kule yansizwa lapha phambili ke asazi ke nokuthi naye umzingi uzokwazi ukusurvive laphana ngoba phela kuhlale kutshintsha lapha. Siyabona ukuthi njengamanje siyabona yansizwa ezayo ilaphana iyayivala igap njengoba ngiyasho bale ukuthi ke njengamanje kufanele mawugijima ube very very careful ukuthi ke awulead too fast, awustart too fast. Liyansizwa elandelayo eziseduze laphana nginovalo ngoba ngendlela eshanga ama-strides iwashaya kakhulu ama-strides, kanti manje afuneka ama-strides abe makhulu. Siyabona ukuthi kusasele 21 kilometers to go. It's still a long way to go.
So yeah, and here we see the hunter and the hunted. The hunted being Joseph Mputi, and behind him we believe that's Rufus Porto, who's emerged from that chase pack. He's the first man from that chasing group to have made the move and bridged that gap up to Joseph Mputi. So this is the first of what I think will be many such moves as this race develops, especially on Cowie's Hill. The legs have been softened up, pounded by all the descents, and now you'll see who's got the legs and the strength to take it home to the finish.
This is all about the stamina, certainly mental fortitude playing a huge role in the closing stages of what is a grueling race indeed. See some tweets coming through saying, feel a little guilty waking up at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and you know that the runners have been out on the road for quite some time. 4 hours and 11 minutes into this 2014 Comrades Marathon, and now we've got Joseph Mputi and Rufus Porto side by side going in the leading pack. This is heading to Pinetown now, and they've still got Cowie's Hill ahead of them, and that to come. But looks like Rufus Porto is showing a little strength here, and it looks like he's trying to pull away. Willie, tactics, right, wrong?
I think this is definitely a wrong tactic, because as I said, it's still a long way to go, you know. And you can see him, he is pulling his leg very, very high. And I'm sure he's going to pay a price by running so fast, so quick. If I was with him, I was just going to run with the guys, because I know that Bongusam Tembi is there, Ludwig is there. It's still a long way to go, you know. That guy, they must just run easy now, enjoy it. I mean, they must try it, because labantu abasibalandelayo nginovalo ukuthi ene labantu abalida njengamanje abazulida esikhathi eside kusenamahila abasiwaclimb.
Yeah, it's one thing when you make the catch to impose your authority and your dominance on the guy you've just caught, really leave him behind as quickly as possible. But when you still have an hour and 15 minutes of running, and when you know that there's a group behind you within sort of 30 seconds of where you are. That's maybe a little bit premature. I agree with Willie on that, and you can see that he's continued to move forward, and you can see what it's done to Joseph Mputi. His resistance seems to have been broken as they start moving up the hill. Loping stride, I have to say that he looks as though he's running on the moon out in front here. He's got this very loping high heel flick at the back. Just compare the styles of the two athletes that you can see on screen.
Yeah, well, I suppose the positive in that is that he's not running what Bruce would call the Comrades shuffle for now, which suggests that things are not looking good for the runner moving forward. That said, Joseph Mputi dropping off the pace now as Rufus Poto is trying to extend a lead here. Speaking of leads, though, if you focus on the women's race for just a moment, Elena and Olesia Nurgalieva, the twins, are now over 8.5 minutes ahead of the great British athlete, the Scottish-born Ellie Greenwood. Camille Heron currently in 4th position. Shane Bosman and Zola Bunn are the two South African hopes currently. Shane Bosman still in 5th position overall in the women's race, and Zola Bunn in 7th overall in the women's race. But if you go back to the men's race, Joseph Mputi currently in 2nd position. He was leading for some time now, having surpassed two men ahead of him in Marco Mambo and Gertes, who both dropped out of the race ultimately, but now been overtaken by Rufus Poto. And certainly in terms of Comrades 2014, there's still plenty of action to come, and expect a lot more action when Cowie's Hill is upon us.
What is your plan for the race for this year? What do you hope to achieve?
If I can go to maybe to top 5 is my dream. And even have my dreams to win the Comrades, So I've trained very hard because, yes, I used to run it down because I'm having it down. So I think I'll run good this year.
Joseph, where do you train? Do you train on your own? Who's your coach? Tell me about your training.
No, I'm not having a coach. I'm training myself at my place at Free State, Frankfurt. Yeah, I'm training there. I'm a full-time athlete. I'm fashion design again. So my training comes very well.
Joseph, your race plan for the day, do you like to go in the front, or do you sit back, or do you just look at your watch?
No, I'm going to look at it for my watch, and I'm going to run my own race. I'm not going to target anyone, so I'm going to target the time.
With 15 seconds on the clock in the opening half, Africa strikes, and he hits the bar.
Catch the 2014 FIFA World Cup from the 12th of June to the 13th of July on SABC TV and radio.
KEPSITA, Sustainable People Development for Prosperity through partnerships with business, communities, and government.
Get the new Corolla Quest 1.6 from only $174,900.
So welcome back to live coverage of the 2014 Comrades Marathon, and at the moment it looks like we've got a Nedbank runner who's caught up. Joseph Putu Bungmusan Tembu looks like is the runner who's coming up.
Yeah, this is 2nd and 3rd. Remember, Joseph Mputi was leading until a few minutes ago. He was caught by Rufus Poto. Now Bungmusan Tembu has made the move from that chase back, and he's in pursuit of our leader. So the race certainly now is developing. We had that group of 6 men, one by one. They're starting to shoot off and make their moves. Eventually one will be decisive, and this is going to be an intriguing tactical battle, Willie.
Yeah, siyayibona ke insizwa kaMthembu laphana iza kahle kakhulu laphana ngicamthile yamuva enzayo ugijima kahle kakhulu kunje kuphela funa angathathi ngamadla naye eze nje kahle ngoba vele labantu sebekhathele akasekho ngabe ngingasho ngampela uthini akasekho ngampela umuntu ofast njengala laphana ngaphezulu kwazo lensizwa lezi laphana ke ngampela umuntu ongawina laphana umuntu ozokwazi asebenzise umqondo angasebenzise amandla ukuthi hayi ngisezizwa nginamandla kakhulu ngivele ngigijime fast ubambe ipace lena ungagijimi fast kakhulu ngiyayibona ke indoda kaMthembu laphana ukuthi iza kahle ngampela asazi ukuthi kuzokwenzekani ke siyabona ukuthi ke leya ndoda kade leader laphana ke khathele laphana-ke siyabona ngempela ukuthi-ke sekuya ngempela ukuthi kuhlukwane siyabona-ke ukuthi umthembu ulele u-2 laphana-ke kanti umbuthu-ke usewuyena usalinde laphana u-4.
So as it stands, in relation to the press truck, the big press truck behind, this is Rufus Porto, who is currently leading the Comrades Marathon. Just behind the press truck is second place Bungumusa Mthembu. He's coming up having just passed Joseph Mputi as well, who is slowly dropping down the field. He's going to be perhaps caught by the bus and perhaps taken in by that group, somehow try to find some legs, but I think perhaps in terms of his chances of winning this race have gone by. But as you said, Ross, this is going to be an intriguing finish. The way that individual runners are now starting to come to the fore, starting to put their hands up, they believe, and obviously they're feeling that they're good enough to go to the front. They're feeling strong enough to be able to carry on and finish out any break that they might put on now.
Right, that's always the big dilemma for an athlete at this stage, as we saw 19 kilometers to go, which is a considerable distance, but it's that part of the race where if you're feeling good, now is when you want to start making those moves. And so the athlete has to make a decision around whether it's premature, how aggressive he should be, whether he should hold back, whether he should bide his time. So extremely interesting to see how the athletes make the decisions. And you can see from that aerial shot that they're spread out, but we have still got 6 men probably within a minute and a half of one another. And in theory, any one of those 6 men could still win this if one of them has a bad patch, one of them has a good patch.
Ngiyabona ke balele lapha emakhaya ukuthi ngempela izinto ziyaqala ziyashintsha njengamanje. Ngempela insizwa akufuneki wenze mistake njengamanje, kufanele ukuthi ugijime ngomqondo, ngempela usebenzise umqondo, ungasebenzisi ukuthi hayi wena uzizwa ukuthi usenamandla kakhulu vele ugijime fast. Ngicabanga ukuthi ke uma ngabe uzogijima ngempela njengamanje kufanele ukwazi icontroller ipace yakho, kanti nginovalo laliyenzo lapha phambili ngoba iziphakamisa kakhulu inyawo, masibuka lapha inyawo ziyaphakama, kanti siyabona umthembu uza kahle laphana, uza nje ngepace ekahle, akajahile. Ngicabanga ukuthi ipace kahle ngempela ke leza ngawo laphana, kanti siyabona ke ukuthi ke no Stephen Mozingi abakude lapha kumthembo bayeza laphana ngemuva. Ngempela ke engingakusho bafowethu lapha emakhaya nabantwana wethu ukuthi ke njengamanje ilesi se open ngempela ngoba usekude phambili, kusizakilamba amahili, asazi ngempela uzozikani ke siphule sibone nje ukuthi ngempela ushintsho basiyabona kuyashintsha ngempela kuyashintshwana, insizwa ziyabulalana njengamanje.
Well, you can donate to charity, you can win some Toyota Corolla Quest, but speaking of winning, it looks like Bungumusa Mthembu is going to take his chance and try to switch as he overtakes now. The man that was he was trying to overtake for just a moment, but glancing over his shoulder, seeing Rufus Porto, the hot spot coming up just ahead. Rufus Porto sprinting almost, and now over the timing mat, it looks like Bungumusa Mthembu is going to take over.
So what we saw there was a race within the race, because of course there's a hotspot prize that we've just gone through, and so the little sprint that you saw, I mean really with 18k to go, there's no reason to do that other than to claim that hotspot prize. And now, having claimed it, Rufus Porto dropped off, and Bungumusa Mthembu, who was, if he believes in patterns, he would think this is his year. In 2010 came third on the down run, 2012 he was second. He now leads the 2014 down run, hoping to complete the sequence of the podium, the clean sweep of podium positions. This is the women's race. We're looking again at the Nagalieva twins, who we believe have now developed a 9-minute lead over the athletes in third place. And Willie, it's business as usual for the 2 Russians.
Yes, siyabona ke ngempela ke intokazi zaseRussia laphana iziloko zilide njalo njena ke, and siyezwa ukuthi ke igebha bayivulile inkulu kakhulu kulo lentokazana balandelayo. Siyabona ke intokazi ngempela zile zihambe njalo nje zombili ziyasizana laphana. Asazi ngempela ukuthi ubani ongase adedele omunye laphana ngoba phela siyakhumbula ukuthi le ntokazi lezi isikhathi esiningi njalo nje zigijima zombili adlukane. Asazi ngempela ukuthi ke ukhona ongasaqhamuke adlonsa njengamanje, kodwa ke mancane ama-chance ukuthi angaba khona intokazi engase idlonse njengamanje. Siyazibona ukuthi ngempela zigijima zombili ziyasizana into obuzakagoliva laphana ama-twins. Asazi ngempela zozakana, kodwa ke ngobuka kwami ngibone ngathi hayi akasekho intokazi eyophinda ibaphazamisa.
So runners from over 70 countries entered into the 2014 Comrades Marathon. Over 70 countries represented, but when it comes to the women's race in particular, you need to look out for Russia. Every year since 2002, we've had a Russian winner, Lena Nurgalieva, having won it 8 times, looking to equal Bruce Fordyce's record of being a 9-time winner with a victory here today. Her sister Alessia's won it twice, and Tatiana Zhirkova won it back in 2005. But you need to go all the way back to 1998 for the last South African winner in Ray Bischoff. But the South African hopes aren't looking particularly good at the moment as the Nurgalieva twins streak ahead. They are continuing to develop a lead, extend that lead almost by the kilometre, extending almost 30 seconds ahead every single time. They really were being held on to by, in particular, Ellie Greenwood and Camille Heron for some time. But after halfway, that lead has gone from 3.5 to now over 9 minutes. And it seems they are well and truly suited to the downhill section of this race.
Yeah, and you can see the damage they've done to the men who were trying to hang with them. We're back now with the men's race. This is Gift Kelehe, famous surname of the Comrades Marathon. His brother Andrew Kelehe, a former winner here. And just behind him, another man who's actually won this race 3 times, Stephen Muzingi. So these are the chasers. They are in pursuit of the leaders who we saw a little while ago, Mthembu leading from Porto. And this is, I think, the climb up Kawi's. Yes, Willie?
Yeah, siyabona ngempela ukuthi ke njengoba ngasho kunzima lapha siyayibona ke enye izwe laphana uGift Kelehe siyamkhumbula ke umfowabo Kelehe lo uAndrew Kelehe owena iComrades begijima bebili lapha nomzingi ngempela ke siyabona ukuthi bakhuphuka lapha eKwaZulu ngempela bakhupha ihili lapha bajaha yona insizwa kaMthembu lapha esayisithele phezulu engicamthi seyiqhweqwa phezulu sasazi ngempela ukuthi izwekani ke engingakutsho laba balele emakhaya ukuthi ke le insizwa njengoba izibona nje eziselapha nje kusekujana phambili lapha kusewa khona unumber 1 ngeke ngempela sithi ubomusa ngayidli race kodwa ke ubomusa ubukela mangibuka kulabantu abagijima nabo ubeka strong kuphela yena angaweza amaphutha amagijime faster aka maintain ke ipace angagijimi fast lapha ekhona ngoba siyabona lensizwa lezi ziyeza nasazilahlile ithemba ngoba uma ngabe unakwa kayishaya intambo ungezeka noma yini kuhlambe ngolas kilometer ukuhlangana nama clamp uthi awusayini irace.
That leaderboard you've just seen scroll across the screen from a kilometre or so ago, we saw Mthembu, of course, catch Porto for the lead. So he now leads Porto second. You're looking at the man in third place, Gift Kelehe, on his way up Kawi's Hill. He has now gapped Stephen Muzingi. You can see Stephen in the background. And then behind them is a retreating
Muzingi.
Muzingi. And then behind them is a retreating Ludwig Mamabolo, who, of course, is the defending downrun champion.
Well, certainly Gift Kelehe looking very strong coming up Kawi's Hill. 17-odd kilometres to go when they finish Kawi's. But at 4:25, Gift Kelehe is coming up very nicely, the Samankor Running Club runner. And as Ross mentioned, the younger brother of the great Andrew Kelehe, former winner of this race. And certainly he's had his fair share of injury concerns as Gift Kelehe. But this is Bongmusa Mthembu, the man that just pulled in front of Rufus Porto to take the lead. He looks to be extending his lead also, hitting Kawi's side. But certainly in terms of William Tolo knows all too well about Bongmusa Mthembu. What do you think his chances are, though, Willie? You know his strengths, you know his weaknesses.
Yeah, siyayibona ke insizwa kaMthembu laphana kabalaleli lapha emakhaya engakutsho ke emakhaya ukuthi ke uBongmusa Mthembu uphuma ecampini yami laphana kubekade eSanderberg kusela ngoFebruary bekade ngimtrainer belaphana ecampini eUnderberg selokhu nje behlale khona kusela ngoFebruary baze beba ngolosithathu oludlule ugijima ngendlela ke engimkhushe ngawo ukuthi ngifuna agijime kanjena angaweza ama mistake ahlale nje phesini angajahi noma ngakuthiwa uyababona abantu beze ngemva kodwa ahambe nje ngepace asazi ngempela ukuthi kwenzekani ke ngoba siyabona liyansizwa akakelehe nayo seyifikile laphana ke ifuna ukushaya yandoda ephambi kwayo asazi ngempela uzenzekani ke kodwa ke amathuba maningi ukuthi ke umuntu ongasawine wakhona lapha eMzansi engicamthi ke uma nje kuwaseMzansi singajabula kakhulu sama South African ukuthi irace isalela kakhulu lentweni eSouth Africa and mangase isale KwaZulu-Natal kungaba ibonus enkulu leyo KwaZulu-Natal as a whole.
Well, that's Sipitla Paladi, who's making his way up Kawi's Hill. The leader, Bongmusa Mthembu, is making his way down Kawi's Hill at the moment. So not too far behind. But a man who's managed to keep the pace quite nicely is Sipitla Mthembu, quietly gone about his business, Sipitla Paladi, who went through halfway or went through Winston Park at 3:36. Certainly looking to put a little pressure on Gift Kelehe, but wow, Gift Kelehe is showing some real pace and looks like he may be moving up into second position very, very shortly indeed. Gift Kelehe, a man who's a firm sporting favourite, the younger brother of Andrew Kelehe, but a man who's a huge supporter of all sorts of sports, including cricket and rugby, as well as soccer. Kaizer Chiefs fan, Blue Bulls fan. Both have played each of their fixtures at Loftus, of course, in Gauteng North. But the Samankor runner looking for a second place at the moment as he chases down Rufus Porter, currently in second place, but it's still Bongmuso Mthembu who is leading the 2014 Comrades Marathon with nearly 4.5 hours gone. Ross Kilehe is looking so strong. He's going hard now.
He looks strong, he's aggressive, he looks hungry. He's got Rufus Porter on his sights. We saw from the previous shot from behind, you could see that Porter was around 50 metres in front. So I expect that the catch will happen any moment, and then he will move on to his next target, who is this race's leader, Bongmuso Mthembu, who is out in front. But also, we must say, looking very good on that descent. So these two men look like they've got good legs, they look like they're hungry. And Willie, I think it could be a very good race between those two once we get down towards Durban.
Definitely, I agree with you. Griff Kelehe is looking very strong, and look, Musa there at the front is looking very strong. But we cannot really say who's going to win, because anything can happen. Still a long way to go, and still a lot of change can happen. Siyambona ke ngempela ukuthi uGift usefikile ngempela kuleya ndoda engaphambi kwakhe. Asazi ngempela noba leya ndoda engaphakathi izokwazi ukuthi ke ihlale ephesini, ngoba phela njengamanje bonke abantu laphana bezwa ubuhlungu ngempela ke sishilo ngeke ngasho ukuthi uma wehlala lapha efield sini kufanele ube very careful, ngoba egcineni uyayikhokha iprize ke. Yilento kade ngisho ke manje ukuthi ke ngempela sokufuneka insizwa ngempela ezesibindi ezinamava ezokwazi amapheni eziwatholayo ziwabekezelele, ngoba wonke umuntu njengamanje uyawenza amapheni. Babheke khona ke manje laphana eWestville kona akusekho mkhansa engakanani esindayo, sokanje ama up and down nama flat sebeyaqala bayalizwa ulwandle solunuka eduze.
Well, Gift Kilehe, the Samankor athlete, looking so strong here, but he's trying to chase down Rufus Porter, who's realised that he's coming up over his shoulder and is trying to hold on for as long as he can. It seems constantly glancing over his shoulder, but Gift Kilehe is going about his business quietly but very aggressively. He's looking to impose himself on the athlete in front of him, and then of course go on to chase down the man currently leading in Bongmuso Mthembu, who's opening up just a little bit of a gap. There's only a handful of athletes though that have crossed over Cowie's Hill as we at the 16-kilometre marker, 16 k's to go, and Stephen Mujingi is suddenly spurted out of nowhere. So two athletes with a great amount of energy, and I thought we were going to see an overtaking manoeuvre with Gift Kilehe passing Rufus Porto, but Ross, it looks like Stephen Mujingi is going to pass both of them if he continues at this pace.
So Stephen's absolutely flying down this hill. He's a bit of a downhill maniac there, because Gift Kilehe actually gapped him on the way up. We saw that gap open, but perhaps Stephen Mujingi, wise, he's won this race 3 times. We heard a little bit earlier from his coach and agent saying that he was in terrific condition, better than ever, and so he is now showing that. So he and Gift Kilehe will very soon be together, and then the question is whether they can catch Mthembu out in front, because we saw, well, we didn't see him in the previous shots, and so that means he has opened up quite a lead. But it's all gonna come down to which of these athletes has the strongest legs, which of them has conserved the most to put themselves in this position, and then who can turn it on over the final 15 kilometers, because we have 16 to go at this stage.
Siyabona ngempela ukuthi ke zimbi siyayibona ke insizwa kaMzingi sike sabona lapha nabakhuphuke eKwaZulu ike yathi ukudosa inyawo engathi iyahluleka ukukhupha amahili. Siyabona ke njengamanje ukuthi uyayivala igap lapha na usondele kuyena umfoka kehe lapha uGift. Asazi ngempela kuzokwenzekani ke ngoba ubongumusa usithele lapha phambili ke le insizwa sizibona zilapha njengamanje zizama kona ukuthi zimjahe uMthembu. Asazi ngempela kuzokwenzekani ke ngoba phela uyashintsha ngapela bangingasho ukuthi uyalo buyengene lokungena kubuye kuphume lona liyansizwa ke siyabona ishaya ama strides amade lapha engicamdi kuyinkinga ngempela ukukhombisa ukuthi le ugijime ngama strides amade kangaka uma ngabe ngempela ufuna ukugijima ngoba isikhathi esiningi sesithola abantu bayashafula nje bagijima bangayiphakamsimleze kakhulu.
Fabulous Comrades Marathon. Fabulous Comrades Marathon. Up ahead, Bongmuso Mthembu. There's Gift Kilehe, Stephen Mujingi, Rufus Porto. There's our leader. And behind him, the real battle rages. Bruce, this is a fabulous race.
What a race. I mean, they always used to say the 1997 down run with Matthias Bester and Sinkwe was one of the greatest racers. This is so exciting. Anyone who says that watching ultramarathon running is like watching paint dry doesn't know what they're talking about. This is an unbelievable race.
Stephen Muzingi, there he goes. He's a 3-time winner. He owns a very, very fast run, about a 5:23 on the down run. Gift Kalehe chasing in the footsteps of his brother Andrew. And there's Rufus Porter, although they've caught Porter, and that was always a bad sign when you get caught and you try and hang in.
Yeah, I think Ian, at this stage, the guys, they're flying, try to catch Bongmusa. But I think they're also making a mistake because it's still a long way. If you fly at this stage, there's still some few hills to go. We remember when Stephen Muzingi won the race and it was exactly Muzingi wawina Asia short off. Siyayibona ke insizwa laphana ke yakamthembu isahleli ephasini ngempela igijima kahle kodwa asazi ukuthi ke laba bamlandelayo bakude kangakanani ngoba phela into zengashintsha ngempela ke kodwa ke ngiyacama ukuthi ke number 1 kufanele sibheke kuzona lensizwa zentathu kufanele kuphuma lapha number 1.
Bongmusa in front on the N13 highway now. They stay on this road all the way till it joins the N3. He's going to have to go up a couple of big hills still. And there are also some very steep, sharp descents, so this is really punishing on the body, and I can't believe the pace that this chasing trio are putting out, and it's goosebump material. I think it's absolutely exciting. What a stunning race this year.
Well, the whole question now is, will one of these guys catch Bongmusa Matembu? That is the question, certainly on Bongmusa's mind and also on these guys. Now, that's quite a big gap. It's difficult to tell, but it might have been a minute and a half going into... They've probably got about 14 Ks to go now, Bruce. So just looking at that time, it's 4:34. I reckon we're going to have around about a 5:26, 5:27.
Yep, it's going to be quick. They've still got hills ahead of them. Huntley's Hill, the very little known Huntley's Hill, but that's a very tough one. 45th cutting and the climb up to Tollgate as well, and some very sharp descents as well.
Yeah, Bruce, I want to tell you that Bongmusa is been in my camp in Underberg. We've been training there since February this year, and he just came down on Wednesday for the race. And I want to tell you that he is ready. He is ready to fight with the guys, and you can see that the guys are trying to catch him very, 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 very hard. Siyabona njengamanje ukuthi ke umzingi ngempela kanye nensuka elehe laphana bayazama ukuthi bayilande leya ndoda leyana ilapha phambili kodwa siyabona ukuthi ke masinurisa lapha Gift is very strong on the hill if you compare to Mzingi.
Yes, Gift's looking good, but Nick Bester, who is Bongmusa's manager, has just sent me a message to say, went past and said, they will not catch me. They will not catch me. That's what the message he shouted at Nick.
Well, back with the leader now, Bongmusa Matembu. Got the bit between his teeth. Now, Bongmusa is wanting to win this race badly. He's a multiple gold medalist, trained with Willie Matolo, very, very competent. And we'll see after this what happens in the end of the Comrades Marathon.
Andrew Kalehe's run in 2001 can't be measured alone by the fact that it remains the 4th fastest down run. It gave South Africa hope. After 3 years without a local champion, Kalehe showed that South African athletes have what it takes to be ultra-ordinary.